Good afternoon. It's the NBA Deeper Dive for Thursday, January 12th, to break down tonight's six-game NBA slate. Alongside me, yet again on a Thursday, is producer Redvine Klein and Adam. How are you doing?
Doing pretty well. Last time I did the show with you was my birthday, and I was not home, and it ended up being a painful night. But excited to be back home doing a show with you. Look forward to those Thursday shows.
Yeah, no, they're all a ton of fun. We'll see maybe if we get a certain number of likes, maybe Jordan will sing another song for us. Maybe he won't need the lyrics this time around. But on a six-game slate, it's going to be a big news later on the slate with Lillard, Jaylen Brown, some new additions to the rotation potentially. So there's a bunch of stuff to talk about coming off a massive Wednesday slate. Some teams are on a back end of a back-to-back. So we'll go ahead and break it down. First games first, OKC going to Philly. OKC obviously led by the likes of SGA. And it feels like we've done a lot of OKC shows together. And it's always been SGA and Giddey and Dort and everyone else. And this time, this team's not getting that much ownership at all. Not a single player across the board is even north of 10%. Giddey's getting the highest over there on Yahoo. But against this Philly spot, I'll certainly have some interest in SGA, but everyone else seems priced too expensive. The minutes are kind of solidifying as they were kind of shorthanded there for a little bit. But they have all these bodies back again, and we already know what Mark Dagnall's going to do. For me, it's really just SGA. It's not going to be that difficult to get above the field, and it's well worth it at times. Talk to me about this OKC team.
Yeah, it's just I feel like you could just like put on a loop us talking about OKC at any point and just replay it every day because it's more the same here. SGA at 10K, I think he looks fine. He's averaging 36 minutes per game over his last 10. They are 9-point dogs here at Philly, but you assume if this game's competitive, SGA is probably playing really well. He tends to do that. And he's only 5% owned. So, there is upside to getting there. But at the same time, the reason he's 5% owned is that you have LeBron on this slate without Anthony Davis. You have Luka on this slate. And then you have also, Kyrie Irving playing without Durant. You have Drew playing without Giannis. So there are very good payoff options. There's also just a lot of good guards. That's not even touching on the value guards that we'll get to. So that's why the ownership is as low as it is. And that is what makes it difficult in getting there. But the upside's clearly there for him. Josh Giddey at 7K should give you 31 or 32 minutes coming off of a very big game his last time out. He has been shooting better recently. No idea if that keeps up. On the one hand, it's fair to say that, a young player is likely improving. On the other hand, he is not supposed to be anywhere close to a good shooter. So it's a pretty surprising development if it keeps up, but it has been there and it does, increase the ceiling a bit. And then Lou Dort gives you small forward eligibility at 4,800, should play around 30 minutes. He's still Lou Dort, not very appealing. And beyond those three guys, maybe you could throw in Jalen Williams as a fourth, but he's up to 4,900 on DraftKings. He did somehow get point guard and small forward eligibility. Not exactly sure how he got that, but it makes it easier for him to be in lineups. But at 4,900, he still doesn't project all that well. So I think it's pretty much SGA, Giddey, Dort, and move on from this team as usual.
Yeah, I think you nailed it there. I do really like SGA at 10K on FanDuel, getting sub 10% ownership over there, but it's not even worth playing roulette with the rest of this team here. It's so difficult to get them nailed right consistently. We don't know what a consistent rotation looks like for Mark Dagnall. Hopefully it's only this season. When next season, when they get Chet Holmgren back, maybe it's a little more consistent. They have a bunch of picks. We'll see what they do with all those picks in the offseason, but it's going to be awfully difficult for the rest of the season if he's going to keep doing this, if there are no injuries going forward. But onto the Philly side of things. It's also a very similar situation here with Philly. But now with the insertion of Maxey, kind of takes the shine away from Harden. And Embiid is outstanding in this spot. Embiid should be able to destroy any member of the OKC front court, as most front courts Embiid gets a chance to go up against. He's 11K on DraftKings, 11.5 on FanDuel, 53 on Yahoo. Certainly have a lot of interest in going to Embiid. Center-only spot. The opportunity cost at center is Embiid tonight, it feels like. So looking at Harden at 10.4 and 10.5, he's priced appropriately now, I think, in my opinion, for the situation with Maxey being there, playing a lot of minutes and sharing the court with Embiid. I think Embiid is outstanding, by far my favorite Sixer. And as it shocks me, I think I'm not going to get to much of the rest of this team. Ownership kind of outlines it that way, dictates it that way as well. Maxey at 7,100 on FanDuel certainly seems like a fine option to go to. But this Philly team, it's the Embiid show. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I think, like you said, ownership kind of just reflects my thoughts on this team as well. Joel Embiid pulling 20%. He's the only guy in double digits. He projects extremely well here. It's Joel Embiid. It goes without saying that he's a great point per minute guy. There's no individual answer on this Oklahoma City team. I assume you'll see plenty of doubles and all of that, trying to keep the ball out of Embiid's hands, trying to get it out of his hands once he has it. But he should have a very, very good game here. The issue, if you want to bring up an issue with Embiid, the issue that I have is, one, he's still a center. And, while this isn't the deepest center slate, you do still have some other good center options that are less expensive. But also, this is a Luka slate. I don't think you're going to be able to get them together all that often. And right now, we have Luka projected for the same ownership as Embiid. Luka projects much better than Embiid for me, even though Embiid looks fantastic. So that would be my one potential issue. But at the same time, you do have that massive opportunity cost at the guard spots as well. So it's not as simple as just saying, Embiid's a center, I'll pay down there and go to Luka, because if you go to Luka, it means that you're giving up something at, the guard spots as well. But I do think I'm likely to prioritize Luka over Embiid. That's the only negative I have to say about Embiid. Beyond that, James Harden looks very good to me. The problem is, I think it's similar to SGA. The problem is what I was just saying about Luka. Harden's only a point guard on DraftKings. So it means that you're giving up substantial either value or, just very high upside mid-range plays, or both. It's, it'd be easy to sit here and say like, oh, I like James Harden. He's only getting 8% ownership, play more. But you kind of have to follow that up with, well, play less of Luka, play less of Drew, play less of Kyrie. And I don't necessarily think any of those are great options, to get away from. So that's why the ownership's so low there. Tyrese Maxey at 6,900 getting 7%. He does have shooting guard eligibility as well. So he gives you a little bit more flexibility. I do think that as you get competitive games for the Sixers, you are going to get back to Maxey giving you those 36-minute games. We haven't really seen it recently, but it's been a combination of, him working back from injury and then just that massive blowout win against Detroit last time out. So it's kind of interesting to try and get to Maxey before you get the 40-minute Maxey game, but I'm not really sure this is the slate to do so because there's so much guard availability. And then Josh had a good point about Tobias Harris this morning that I agree with. I'm not sure how actionable it is for DFS. It might just be one of those things where you're going to see it happen and then be like, damn, I should have figured out how to make it work. But if they do, assuming they do, really double and just look to get the ball out of Embiid's hands, you could certainly see more open opportunities for Tobias Harris on the wing. He is a forward option, which is clearly the weakest position on the slate. But that being said, it's still, I think, pretty difficult to get to him given just how many good options there are on the slate.
Yeah, no, Tobias Harris just kind of falls under the rug, even on this type of slate. Short slates, 2-game, 3-game slates, probably get to him organically. It's even tough for me to even have a kid to go above the field. He's coming in with limited ownership, barring anything unforeseen or injury on this Philly team during the game. Tobias Harris, I think, with Maxey being healthy, playing all those minutes, he should be like a 6K player, maybe a high 5K player going forward. I think that's more appropriate where we can get to him aggressively. But you want to make the case, yeah, he's a tournament play. I wouldn't argue against it, but I'm very skeptical on Tobias Harris's upside with sharing the court with all three of those guys. But before we move on to the next game, click that like button for us. And also, today's Deeper Dive is presented by Underdog Fantasy. If you guys haven't checked out Underdog Fantasy, make sure to do so. They have some exciting playoff best ball contests going on right now. It's a really exciting format. If you haven't played playoff NFL best ball, it's a completely new type of game theory that you got to take advantage of. It's a really exciting, huge prize pools. They're filling really fast, and make sure to take advantage of Underdog Fantasy. And also go to that link in the description. We have this special offer going on right now where you can get a deposit bonus up to $100 match. So double up that first deposit bonus up to $100. Take advantage of that, and producer Jordan will be dropping that in the chat as he already has. But on to the next game we go. Charlotte taking on Toronto here. This is a repeat matchup. We had this matchup earlier in the week, as we've seen the NBA do this quite a bit to reduce travel this season. And then Charlotte's side of things, it's LaMelo Ball and Terry Rozier. I was luckily above the field on both of them, specifically Rozier. I have no issues going back to Rozier again tonight, coming in at 7-3 and 7-5 on DraftKings and FanDuel. But the guy who's getting the most ownership on this team is the guy who closed last game, is Cody Martin. Cody Martin comes in at 3K and 3,900, and we haven't touched on anyone significantly cheap so far through three teams, and Cody Martin's the first guy coming in sub 4K, coming in at a 14% projected ownership right now and 11% over there on FanDuel. I think he's fine to get to. If you want to get above the field on him, he's the flat min. Certainly take your chances with Cody Martin. I think you'll definitely take those minutes. I know those minutes are in the low 20s. You would like them to be a little bit higher, but the situation with no Oubre, no Gordon Hayward, those minutes should be there. I know he's coming back from injury. Maybe they can go up a little bit higher. How do you feel about the Charlotte team taking on Toronto again?
Yeah, so it's kind of a weird team to talk about because it's just like across the board 5 to 10% ownership. And that's how I see it as well, where LaMelo, Plumlee, Rozier, McDaniels, Washington, they all look good at their salaries, but not, nothing special there. Like LaMelo looks fine at 9,800, but I'm not actively looking to play him ahead of, certainly not, Drew or Kyrie or Doncic, but I even think he looks pretty comparable or even a little bit behind guys like SGA and Harden, and he's getting more ownership than them. You have Plumlee pulling 9% ownership. He looks fine, but you do have Brook Lopez in that price range. You have Nick Claxton in that price range without Kevin Durant. So pretty easy to see how he's a secondary option. Rozier at 7,300 looks okay, but there's, plenty of guard plays again. You mentioned Cody Martin being the only guy getting ownership. It seems really, really, at least right now with the way that value looks and the number of good spend up options we have, it seems like it's really useful to find a 3K guy. Like even if they project for 16, 17 DraftKings points, it's showing up in optimal lineups right now. So I do understand why he's getting 14% ownership, shooting guard, small forward eligible as well. My concern is just that he's not a very good point per minute guy. And I'm also not completely sold on his minutes. Even last game, you mentioned he closed after PJ Washington had some foul issues. That got him to 22 minutes. If PJ Washington closes that game like he's normally going to, you're talking about like 18 minutes for Cody Martin. He had played like 26 the game before where LaMelo was in foul trouble. I'm just not convinced that you're actually getting mid-20s in minutes from Cody Martin by design. I think as long as JT Thor remains in this rotation, that it's kind of 20 to 22 minutes if, unless somebody gets in foul trouble and he gets some more minutes. So I am a little concerned by the ownership there. Similarly, I would say that I'm interested in Dennis Smith Jr. because I do expect him to play mid-20s. The problem is he's a guard and point guard only. So you run into that opportunity cost issue that you don't have with somebody like Cody Martin or Beauchamp, who we'll talk about, in the Milwaukee game, who's pulling a ton of ownership. I think very similar to Cody Martin, where he's not a great projected guy. He's just showing up a ton because it's so useful getting there. So I understand why the ownership's there. It also scares me because there's a very good chance you're just getting, 16, 17 fantasy points from Martin.
Yeah, so it's an interesting situation. Until more value that opens up, I know Cody Martin's a really gross player. It's not a type of player that I like getting about the field on whatsoever. But in a situation when we have the likes of Embiid and Luka who look outstanding in their respective spots, as does LeBron, we need some value to jam in kind of a force in a stars and scrubs slate. And then thinking about the mid-range balance build aspect of it, it's a little difficult as well. So Cody Martin just for the moment fits. And granted, this can change in 20 minutes if we get some news, especially with the Boston situation in Portland. But it is difficult to not like him. And that just feels gross to say, especially a guy like Cody Martin. And especially those minutes could be super volatile. Like the floor could be 15 and the ceiling could be 15 if he doesn't get those minutes because of PJ Washington, like you said. But the rest of the team, like LaMelo Ball and Rozier, are by far my favorite guys, and everyone else kind of falls under the rug outside of Martin. But any final thoughts on the Charlotte team?
Mark Williams as a value piece that's not getting ownership is sort of interesting. Center only, and he's just playing, whatever minutes Plumlee doesn't play. But he's pulling 4.5% ownership. There's not a ton of opportunity cost at center today. You do certainly have some good options, but with it only being a 6-game slate, it's not quite as much as normal. It's kind of interesting. Just, you get a better point per minute guy. You hope Plumlee gets in foul trouble or something, and, Williams just gets a couple extra minutes. It's not a play that I love, but it is just kind of interesting when you're going to see 14% ownership coming to Martin, when you're going to see 28% coming into Beauchamp. It's just kind of interesting, a different way to build your lineups at least.
Yeah, click that like button for us. Onto the Toronto side we go, where Nick Nurse just runs these guys into the ground. You have Siakam and Van Vliet.
Nick Nurse is a changed man.
He's a changed man?
He went to rehab. He stopped giving these guys minutes.
I think he just had a relapse, and he's going to give these guys the minutes. Let's be real here. Siakam and Van Vliet look outstanding, 10-3 and 8-2. 9-6 and 8-4 over there on FanDuel. The Toronto team, just because of sometimes how these minutes can consolidate to their starters, I'm all about it. Scotty Barnes, 6'7 and 6'6. and OG comes in at 6'6" over there. I have interest in this Toronto team taking on the Charlotte team on the other side of things. I have interest in getting above the field on all five starters. I know that might be kind of negative correlation when it comes down to it. It's a different story over there in FanDuel, especially Gary Trent coming in at 7-2, where he doesn't get the 3-point bonus over there. OG, Van Vliet, and Siakam look exceptionally strong, in my opinion, over there. But on DraftKings, I could get above the field on any one of those five guys and no issues whatsoever. Are you as bullish on this Toronto team like I am?
Probably not quite as much, but certainly similar. I am actually, joking aside, I am concerned about the rotations they've run the last two games. It kind of seems like maybe somebody got to Nick Nurse and told him to chill the hell out with the minutes, because they have been playing like actual, an actual bench unit now. 2 games in a row for Toronto, nobody has touched 40 minutes. You had Siakam lead the way last game with about 36. I'm not completely, backing off on them, because one, I do think there's a non-zero chance that it just turns out to be a fluke and Nick Nurse immediately goes back to what he does in this game. But also, even if you do say, all right, we're not going to play 40 plus minutes for everybody anymore, there's a pretty big gap between saying that and saying, nobody's going to play more than 36 ever. So I still think it's a good spot. They still look good. I did just kind of take a minute off of where I would normally go on everybody because of the rotation they've run the last couple of games. Siakam looks the best to me. He does have center only eligibility on DraftKings though, so it does come with that opportunity cost. But projects very well, very good matchup against Charlotte. Van Vliet, Barnes, Anunoby, Trent all look pretty similar to me relative to salary. The ownership is probably about where it should be. Gary Trent pulling 14% because he's shooting guard, small forward. Scotty Barnes, forward eligibility, pulling 10%. That's going to be a trend you see throughout this slate. It's not that Trent or Barnes really look better than Van Vliet in particular, but, or Anunoby. It's just that you have the better positional eligibility. Like the forward positions have the least opportunity cost on this slate. And then when you compare Trent and Anunoby, same positions, but you just have a cheaper price tag on Trent. So he's going to get a little bit more ownership. But really just across the board, I think Trent and Barnes are probably the easiest to get to from a salary and positional standpoint. Siakam looks the best, I think, relative to salary if you were just ignoring positions. And then Anunoby and Van Vliet certainly fine as well. Still likely to play mid-30s minutes, even with the rotations the last couple of games.
Yeah, hit that subscribe button first. But I know you also mentioned that the situation with they're not playing those massive minutes. Who gets the beneficiary off the bench? I know we're like squeezing for value. Can we take some chances on one of those front court guys, that being Boucher, Achua, or Koloko, or even like any of those backcourt guys like Flynn? Is it worth taking some chances on it right now with like such limited and scarce value we have? It's a Charlotte matchup.
Somebody actually just asked
side,
that question in chat, and I think it's fine. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, the key to the slate is playing Chris Boucher when Chris Boucher might play 12 minutes or 10 minutes. But he's getting 1% ownership right now. He's a hell of a lot better point per minute guy than, Beauchamp or Cody Martin, these guys that are getting value. You don't have to be right. It doesn't have to work out for you all that often for it to put you in a really good spot if Boucher does just either happen to play more minutes or just go nuts in his, limited time. For example, I have him in for 14 minutes right now. I have him at like 15 and a half DraftKings points. I have Cody Martin at 16 and a half DraftKings points. It's not that big of a, I have Beauchamp at like 17. It's not that big of a difference. So I do think that in large field tournaments, it makes some sense. Like it's something you could consider. Understand that it's extremely risky. You are still talking about playing backups in a Nick Nurse rotation. Those minutes can just disappear. But it's not like playing Cody Martin at 15% ownership is safe either.
Yeah, and it's I think we might get rewarded taking some chances on these super low owned sub 4K players if we don't get the value to break our way throughout the night here. But it's an interesting spot on the other side against Charlotte. So any final thoughts on this game before we move on?
Nope.
All right, on to the next game we go here. Boston taking on Brooklyn, and the Boston side of things, Boston's on the back end of a back-to-back as they played last night. And Jason Tatum's been trending for the release of the JT1s. They leaked, and they're apparently horrendous. I know producer Jordan Klein is an avid Kicks owner, and he owns a bunch of Kicks. I want Jordan to come on and share his 2 cents on the new JT1s.
I haven't seen them yet, but I haven't seen them. Adam, have you seen them?
No, I haven't.
And they're Jordans, right? They're Jordan brand.
They're Jordans, yeah. He's getting a lot of hate for them, so like a tremendous amount of hate for these new JT1s that leaked earlier today. But I don't know what color scheme that was that leaked, but he's supposed to release 3 or 4 new ones throughout the calendar year. But on the side of things, we got to talk about Tatum and Brown. In the situation with Boston here, Al Horford is not going to be playing today. And that's going to entice me now. Robert Williams at $4,700 and $5,800 over there on FanDuel, where he's power forward and center eligible. $19 on Yahoo. Robert Williams is going to somehow find a way to high 20s minutes tonight in a Brooklyn spot. I'll certainly have a lot of interest in getting to him. I think he looks like an outstanding value play at the center spot. And now we don't know what the situation with Jaylen Brown. I believe last I checked, he still was questionable here. Talk to me about this Boston situation and how can we attack the situation with no Al Horford? That news we already got earlier in the day. So how do you feel about Robert Williams and the rest of this Boston team?
Yeah, so Robert Williams, I assume he's going to start. I projected him for about 24 minutes. I don't feel good going higher than that just because we haven't seen it yet. And I don't expect them to just decide to run him into the ground, out of the blue here. But he did play 23 minutes in his start last game. He didn't close that game either. In his start, the last game he played, rather. He didn't close that game either. So, there is some chance that he gets 25, 26 minutes. We know he's a very good point per minute guy, pulling 7.5% ownership. We have him with a 13% chance of being optimal. So I do think he's an interesting tournament option. The huge news, though, that we're waiting on, like you said, is Jaylen Brown. If he's in, the rest of this team doesn't look that appealing. Tatum, Brown, Smart, all reasonable plays. Smart looking better on FanDuel than DraftKings because he's the same price and you just have more salary on FanDuel. But they're all just sort of secondary options, high upside, but plenty of players that I'm going to prioritize over them. Grant Williams is pulling 16.5% ownership at 3,900. That's again because he has forward eligibility. He's still likely to play around 30 minutes. I assume he comes off the bench. If he starts, I would give him more. But he's likely to play 30 plus minutes here, and he's just 3,900. If Jaylen Brown is out, though, Jason Tatum starts to look really good. Grant Williams looks a lot better. Smart, Brogdon, White all see at least some semblance of a bump in production and or playing time as well. So it would really open up a lot for this Boston team in a game that has a healthy 227 total. It's got a close spread. You have plenty of games that are unappealing on tonight's slate. This is a pretty a good spot for Boston. It's just a matter of everybody being priced more or less correctly right now. If you take Jaylen Brown out, that changes, and this team starts to look really, really good.
Yeah, if Jaylen Brown is going to be out, that will be we'll change the slate right away. And then we'll have a bunch of value that opens up. And last I did check, there was a lot of talk last time that Jason Tatum was not in the top 3 in the Eastern Conference voting. He is now in the top 3 as of this afternoon in the second fan returns. So there was a lot of talk, and he kind of balled out to show out why he belonged in the top 3. Not that matters that much, but he definitely mentioned it in his post-game interview there. But yeah, this Boston team comes down to Jaylen Brown. Once we get that news, we'll have more of a clear-cut angle on how to attack this team, and it will change things up for DFS purposes. We did get a super chat, and it's an important super chat asking us who are the top 4 forward options on this slate. And while we switch over to the Brooklyn side of things here, the 2 best forwards I think on the slate come from the Brooklyn side. It's Ben Simmons and TJ Warren. And this Brooklyn team is going to be without Kevin Durant, who is out for the foreseeable future with an MCL injury. And this whole team is getting a ton of ownership across the board, starting with Kyrie, TJ Warren, Ben Simmons, even Royce O'Neal. Name a player on this team, it's getting double-digit ownership that's going to find a way to play 20-plus minutes around. How do you feel about this Brooklyn team, and how much Brooklyn is too much Brooklyn?
I feel scared by this Brooklyn team. It's not a very appealing matchup against Boston, and I just don't totally trust. There's 2 things that concern me. One, when you take Kevin Durant off the floor this year, you actually don't see a big bump in production from most of these guys. Nick Claxton sees a bump. Kyrie Irving, of course, sees a bump. But the reason for that is that Kyrie Irving just takes on such a bigger role. When you think about these other players on Brooklyn, it's not like Ben Simmons is going to start chucking up a bunch of shots because Kevin Durant's not out there. Kyrie Irving's going to take the shots. Same goes for Royce O'Neal. Like, Royce O'Neal is not going to just start creating and doing things other than playing defense and standing in the corner waiting to shoot threes when Kyrie gives him the ball. Kyrie's also just going to play a ton of minutes. So, Kyrie looks fantastic. I'm kind of separating him into his own category on this team. Then I think you have Ben Simmons and Nick Claxton, who both look really good. Claxton sees a bump in production. He's also likely to play a bunch of minutes. He's averaged around 30 minutes per game over the last 10, but you certainly could see more playing time. Last game, it actually looked like he was going to play a lot more, but he had some foul issues in the first half. Still got the 31 minutes. So if you wanted to expect an extra minute or two from Claxton, I think that would be reasonable. But even at 30 minutes, he's going to look good. And then Ben Simmons, again, not a huge bump in production or anything, but I think you can pretty comfortably project 30 minutes from him, and it shouldn't surprise anybody if that actually turned into, 32, 33, 34. And he's also really cheap. So Claxton and Simmons are, I think, the pieces I'm most confident in outside of Kyrie. Then you get to everything else. And my concern is that Brooklyn has a ton of interchangeable, shitty wings. Like, I'm not convinced that they are going to just give 30 minutes to anybody. If you want to give TJ Warren 26 minutes, then it's possible, but I feel a lot better projecting him for like 24 than 26, just because you have TJ Warren, you have Seth Curry, you have Harris, you have Watanabe. Then I just assume they're going to add for at least a handful of minutes, one of Morris or Thomas or Sumner or just somebody. I think you probably just still see a pretty deep rotation here. So I think TJ Warren makes sense. He's 3,900. He is at least another scorer that they badly need. He hasn't been a high usage guy so far this year, even with Durant off the floor. But, we know what he is over the course of his career, and he's capable of being that guy. So at 3,900, I'm certainly happy to take shots on him. He is only 18% owned as well, which is reasonable. If he were to start getting up to that 25, 30% range, I'd be a little bit more concerned. But, Seth Curry at 3,500, pulling 19% ownership. He projects reasonably well. He is guard only on DraftKings, which is, problematic. Joe Harris only pulling 3%. He's my guess at who starts. But even if he starts, I assume he's playing like 26 to 28 minutes and sucks. So you're still not going to be very confident going to him even at 3,300. If TJ Warren were to start, I would bump up his playing time and he would look a lot better. If Seth Curry starts, I would give him a couple of extra minutes. He would look a lot better. So I guess that is the caveat here is we don't know the fifth starter. I'm assuming it's Joe Harris, which makes Harris, Curry, Warren all look fine, but also just scares me on all of them. If it's Curry or Warren, whichever one it is certainly going to look better than they do to me right now.
Yeah, this Brooklyn team, I think it's going to be a moving piece going forward. I think Coach Vaughn's going to test out different starting lineups, different rotations. With no Kevin Durant, it's going to be a very matchup-specific approach I believe he's going to take. But I think this being the first game that there is, I think there's a lot of merit picking and choosing your spots where you want to get above the field on, and it's going to be the same thing going forward. I don't mind getting above the field significantly with a guy like TJ Warren. I just think out of all those guys, he might have the highest ceiling, but it's a very the minutes, it's going to come down to the minutes. If he's going to play high 20s minutes, he can certainly put up high 20s fantasy points. He certainly has that. And he'll definitely take that on this slate at 3,900 to get in those studs. Maybe it's just going to be the Kyrie show at 8,800 and 9,300, and maybe at 9,300 on FanDuel, you definitely want to get exposure above that field as well. TJ Warren's a less important over there at 4,900 FanDuel. It's kind of harder to get that in there. I think you'd rather spend up for $200 to $100 more for Royce O'Neal because he's going to potentially play 10 more minutes than TJ Warren and take those 10 minutes type of situation here. Yeah, it's going to be it's tough to pinpoint on this slate, but this team is getting a lot of ownership. And I do think come at the end of the night, there might be one or two Brooklyn guys who certainly can find a way to get there that we just kind of goes over under the radar. It's difficult to see what this rotation will really look like as Kevin Durant's been mainly healthy for the most of the year here. It wouldn't even shock me if there's some guy that enters the rotation that we haven't seen yet. So
yeah, that's kind of my thing is, the way I projected it out right now, again, I guessed that Joe Harris starts and gave him 28 minutes. And then I gave 24 apiece to Curry and Warren. I gave like 8 to Markieff Morris. But what if Markieff Morris plays 16? Or what if it's, Cam Thomas and he plays 16 or Sumner, whoever? What if that extra piece plays more minutes than I'm expecting? Then suddenly everything becomes riskier here. So it's just, with it being the first game with Durant out and we don't have any sort of a blueprint of what it's going to look like, I completely agree with the field in that Brooklyn has a ton of upside here. Like if you get a condensed rotation, you could just have like half this team pay off their salaries because they're clearly underpriced if they're going to get extra minutes. It's just that Brooklyn still has a bunch of guys on the end of their bench they can just throw in there to soak up minutes. And if they do that, then sure, they look better than if Durant were in. But outside of Kyrie, I'm not, and to some extent Claxton and Simmons, I'm not convinced they look that much better. And the field is kind of just assuming that you're just going to get this great game from these Brooklyn guys when I think there's still a decent chance between the matchup and the unknown rotation. I just think there's a little bit more downside risk maybe than it's getting credit for based on ownership. One other point on TJ Warren, physically, at least he can play big minutes. We saw 31 minutes from him on the 31st against Charlotte. We had seen 26 a couple of times previously as well. So he can play those minutes. It's just from like a logical standpoint, I'm not sure. It doesn't make sense for Brooklyn to like, they had a plan for TJ Warren. Like you assume he's going to be a big part of this team down the stretch. They had a plan for him. Kevin Durant getting hurt shouldn't, in January, in the middle of the regular season, shouldn't accelerate TJ Warren's timeline beyond what they were comfortable with. Maybe it will, but that's why I'm still only projecting like 24 minutes here. Is I think it would be dumb to have this, plan for easing TJ Warren in and having him ready at the end of the year, and then just be like, oh, well, Kevin Durant's going to miss a month in January, so now we're just ramping up TJ Warren, screw everything that we had in place.
Yeah, it's something that we're going to keep an eye on, obviously. Maybe if there's some pregame notes that come out, maybe we take that for a grain of salt type of situation here. But Brooklyn's going to be key to the slate tonight, and we'll see how these ownership projections evolve leading up to lock. And if you guys want to get access to ownership projections, take advantage of our 5-day NBA free trial over there with Stokastic Plus. It's the link in the description. Producer Jordan will drop that in the chat for you guys to take advantage if you haven't experienced the Stokastic Plus offering yet. I highly recommend for you to take advantage of this 5-day free trial that we have going right now. So on to the next game we go. Milwaukee taking on Miami. Giannis will not be present tonight as he's going to be resting on the back end of the back-to-back. Still no Chris Middleton, no Grayson Allen. And there's going to be a bunch of minutes available, and there's a lot of ownership going to this team yet again. Just like Brooklyn, we're going to be looking to their guard spot in Drew Holiday, 7,700 and 7,300 on FanDuel. He looks outstanding over there in FanDuel, kind of like a building block player over there on FanDuel at $7,300. Tough to move away from that. Only $27 on Yahoo. He looks great. Bobby Portis, another strong forward option, going back to Nico Pico's super chat. He's another great forward option at $6,300. He looks pretty solid to go to. But I also like getting above the field on a guy like Brook Lopez coming in only at $5,600 and $6,700 on FanDuel. $5,600 on DraftKings. He's still getting around 30%, which is significant. But the rest of this team, it's difficult to pinpoint who's going to be the lead guy here. Is it going to be Pat Connaughton? Is it going to be Javon Carter? Is it going to be Marjon Beauchamp? Our tools team currently has minutes for guys like Nora Hill and AJ Green. Adam, I'm going to give you the hard question. We already know Drew Holiday and Bobby Portis are going to produce here, but who else is going to get the brunt of that usage when Giannis is gone?
This team just reminds me so much of what we just talked about with Brooklyn. Giannis being out and Middleton being out, clearly there is a lot of upside with this team. Drew Holiday and Bobby Portis, I think, are the equivalents of your Irving/Claxton Simmons pieces, where they clearly are going to look good. The matchup's not very appealing. This team does have a 103 implied total, which I think is worth noting when you just have massive ownership coming into a team that is expected to be the lowest scoring team on the slate. I think that's worth, kind of keeping in mind. But then beyond them, I think there's a lot of guys that look pretty good, but also probably don't look quite as good as the ownership that they're getting. Brook Lopez at 29% owned. I think he looks good at 5,600, but he also doesn't really see bumps without Giannis. Like his usage rate isn't really going to go up. He's not that kind of guy. His rebounding percentage actually comes down, which could be noise, but it also could just be Bobby Portis taking a bunch of rebounds because Bobby Portis rebounds at a much higher rate. So we've seen that when he shares the floor with when he shares the floor with Portis, his rebounding rate takes a hit. So that's a concern. Pat Connaughton, Beauchamp, both getting ownership, and they should, because they're both really cheap. They're shooting guard, small forward, which is like the nuts on this slate. Anybody cheap playing small forward right now is going to get ownership if they project for any sort of reasonable fantasy production. I expect that you're getting mid-20s in minutes from Beauchamp. I expect you're getting 30 plus from Connaughton. Makes them both look good. Javon Carter, 3,500, reasonable value. Certainly doesn't see the same level of production when he shares the floor with Drew Holiday, even without Giannis. He also is only guard eligible, which kind of just makes people look worse today, but certainly still playable at 3,500. But I kind of just see it the same way as Brooklyn, where I agree that Connaughton and Lopez and Beauchamp and Carter are all good point per dollar plays. I just also am scared by the ownership coming in there because I don't necessarily think Brook Lopez has to be that much better without Giannis. Like if Giannis were in here, Brook Lopez would be like 10% owned.
I think that's too generous. I think he'd be like
right. He might be 5%.
Yeah.
And I've played Brook Lopez a good amount recently when he's low owned because I think that he tends to just be overlooked. I don't think Giannis being out has that sort of a bump on Brook Lopez that the ownership is seeming to reflect. So that's kind of my concern. It's the same thing with Pat Connaughton. Does he look better without Giannis? Sure. But it's not like Pat Connaughton's going to suddenly be running the offense. You still have Drew out there. You still have Bobby Portis being a high usage guy who I assume is going to start in Giannis's place. So it's not like you're throwing some low usage guy in there. You're adding another high usage guy, not as high as Giannis clearly, but it's just another team that I think is going that looks good from a point per dollar standpoint, but I think they're just going a little bit over owned. I think there are some other spots you can get to at lower ownership that are interesting as well.
This is going to be a tough question for you. Let's say if you were just playing one lineup today, can you play one of Carter, Beauchamp, or Connaughton in that lineup? Do you think one of those guys make it?
Yeah, I mean, if I like the easiest way for me to answer this is because you don't even have to consider ownership. If I just like look at my highest projected lineup right now, it has both Connaughton and Beauchamp in it. Okay. So clearly, like you can play them. They are from a projection standpoint, they look like very, very useful pieces again because you can play them at the shooting guard or forward spots, and it allows you to get to whatever you want from the guards and center, which is really, really valuable. So yeah, you certainly could. The only question really just comes down to the ownership and the rest of your lineup.
No, it's a very interesting situation with Brooklyn and Milwaukee, just because they're KD and Giannis being out is such big usage just being off the plate and who really takes advantage of it. I know we didn't touch on Drew and Bobby because it felt kind of straightforward, but how do we approach this? I mean, they're getting a ton of ownership, and I think a situation where getting above the field is you're making starting to make a serious stance on your lineup portfolio tonight. I think I might be leaning in that direction. How about yourself?
What was your question?
With Drew and Bobby Portis at their projected ownership, do you think it's well worth getting above the projected ownership right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're the two spots that I'm most confident in because they do both actually see huge bumps in production without Giannis. Like you can point to it and say like, all right, one, Bobby Portis is going to project for more minutes. Two, he's going to just be a high usage guy because that's what he is. And he rebounds at an extremely high rate, even when he's playing next to Brook Lopez. And then for Drew, you just see that bump in usage. So my only concerns with them are just the simple, it's an unappealing matchup. This team is, has a 103 total, but they both, you can very clearly point to why they look better. So I'm just more comfortable with the ownership there than I am on some of these other spots.
We got another super chat. Thank you, Nico Pico, for a $4.99 super chat. He's asking us top 4 shooting guards for tonight's game. And we touched on Connaughton and Beauchamp. They look like solid value plays, but do you have a preference on your top 4 shooting guards on tonight's slate?
I expect to be paying down there quite a bit just because that's sort of how lineups have worked out. So Gabe Vincent on the other side of this game, we mentioned Connaughton, playing him at small forward is better. Better is not the right word, but he's going to show up at small forward more often because there's even less opportunity cost. But Pat Connaughton, and then I would say probably Royce O'Neal.
Okay. And now if Nico Pico, I don't know if you're asking for value or raw points.
Beauchamp.
Yeah, if you were asking for raw points, I'll be generous enough and give you a sneak peek behind our data and tools. Mitchell, Jaylen Brown, Terry Rozier, followed by Josh Giddey, our top 4 raw projected shooting guards right now on tonight's slate. Thank you yet again for that super chat. Click that like button for us as we are moving along on this slate. Hit that subscribe button. And we're going to move on to another situation in Miami where last game they were really shorthanded as Bam didn't play, but this team continues to be without Kyle Lowry and Tyler Hero. And there's going to be a bunch of usage. And Jimmy Butler definitely shined, and he was definitely high owned. And I think he was in high stakes north of 80% in some high dollar tournaments. He looks like another play that you can definitely get above the field to, but Bam's back in the picture. And certainly Bam can definitely take up some usage where Jimmy Butler doesn't look as appealing as he did a couple nights ago, but I think he's in a great spot on the other side. But he's priced up 9.7 over there on DraftKings, comes in at 9,200 on FanDuel. Much more feasible at that FanDuel ownership, getting 3 times the ownership that he is over there at near 30%. The rest of the team here, with Bam being back in the picture, we don't have to worry about that situation with Orlando Robinson anymore or Jamal Cain. The backcourt is Gabe Vincent and Victor Oladipo. Oladipo came off the bench, but Vincent continues to get a lot of ownership, and it feels gross, man. 4K, but he's projecting to north of 40%. What in the world do we do with Gabe Vincent? And he's getting around 70% over there on FanDuel. Man, that is a lot going to Gabe Vincent. How do you feel about Gabe Vincent and the rest of this Heat team?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of ownership, but just based on playing time, I think it's deserved. He played like 39 minutes last game. I have him in for 34 today. Even if you went to 32, he's going to look like a good point per dollar play. He's only 0.68 DraftKings points per minute this season, but the minutes just kind of have to be there. You're going to have an 8-man rotation from Miami tonight. If Haslam's available, they would have 9 bodies, but I don't expect them to be playing any. Like I expect Bam, Robinson, and Haslam to just be centers. So even if Haslam played, it's probably in place of like Robinson or something. So you're just going to have 6 guys basically playing 4 positions. You're going to need Vincent to just play a lot of minutes. He's cheap enough where even though he's not a good point per minute guy, he's still just going to look like a very good value piece. Beyond that, you mentioned Jimmy Butler. He doesn't really see much of a bump with these guys off the floor. Even in terms of usage, he doesn't really see a bump when Bam is out. Last game, did manage to shoot 23 for 23 from the free throw line and pick up 7 steals and blocks. So I think last game probably was a little bit of confirmation bias where I think Butler was a little bit overprojected and got there through a bunch of random shit happening. But he looks fine here. It's just that, he is 9,700. One thing he has working for him is that he is a forward as opposed to, being a guard or a center. Bam, $9,100 center option. He's going to look fine, but I think I'm probably going to end up either paying down at center or going up to a Siakam or Joel Embiid type guy more frequently. Max Strus, shooting guard, small forward. So good positional eligibility, likely to play 36 to 38 minutes. Not a great point per minute guy, 5,300. Kind of just looks like a neutral play. He's pulling 18% because of the positional eligibility. Oladipo looks okay, but his salary has come up to 5,900. One spot that I do think is really interesting, though, and it's not fun to talk about, but Haywood Highsmith is 3,400. Jamal Cain is 3,500 on DraftKings. Highsmith's at 0.63 fantasy points per minute this year. Cain in 120 minutes is at 0.78. We saw Highsmith get in some foul trouble last game, and Jamal Cain ended up playing a lot. I think they project pretty similarly here. I went to 28 minutes on Highsmith, 24 on Cain, assuming that Highsmith is going to start. That would give me about a 17.5 point projection on Highsmith and about 17 on Cain. We have between 16 and 17 on both guys. The point being, they project very, very, very similarly to Cody Martin and Marshawn Beauchamp and Seth Curry and these other guys that are pulling 5 times the ownership. I don't want to play Haywood Highsmith or Jamal Cain, but I also don't want to play those other guys that everybody else is playing.
Yeah, Jamal Cain, Haywood Highsmith. I think you want to sprinkle them in your 150 lineups. Sure. I would definitely feel a little bit more confident going to one of those Brooklyn guys, even more so Milwaukee. But yeah, there's a lot of tournament merit there. I know we touched on Bam being back. He's 9,100 and 9,200, 8,600 over there on FanDuel. I think the FanDuel ownership, he's getting similar on Jimmy Butler. I like getting to Bam today. Another spot where you can take advantage of Bam is there's an exciting NBA bet on him. If you take advantage of our NBA Bet Pro, new pretty revolutionizing player prop betting product. It's been a very successful results over the last month or so. If you've been able to take advantage of NBA Bet Pro, Bam's leading the way right now is one of the best bets. I won't say what it is. You can definitely find out if you just use the link in the description to get that. I think it's a 7-day free trial for NBA Bet Pro. So take advantage of that Bet Pro product. If you have legalized betting available in your state, definitely take advantage of that Bam bet, which I think you guys might like over there. Any final thoughts on this Miami and Milwaukee game?
No.
All right. On to the next game we go. Dallas taking on the Lakers. And on the Dallas side of things, it's Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic is 12-8 and 12-2, and he's been balling. Over the last 3-4 weeks, it's been 60 points. You can just count on that type of situation, and he looks great yet again. The one thing that's difficult is we don't have clear-cut, exciting value to jam in a bunch of studs, and kind of forces yourself to pick one or two maybe. And Luka's expensive. You got to pay out for nice things. And I'll find a way to get there to Luka, but the ownership's all already there. 20%, 24%, where it's going to make it sometimes a decision point to get how much above the field the guy like him on the main slate. Outside of Luka, there's Christian Wood, who I feel the most confident in minutes and production at 8,300 and 8,200 in this Lakers spot. Certainly like him. And then I like Tim Hardaway Jr., only 5,200 over there on FanDuel. I think he looks like a solid option over there. 5,800 on DraftKings, he's okay. You expect the minutes to be in the mid 30s, but 5,800, you need a bunch of threes to go in. Spencer Dinwiddie has been really difficult to go to when Luka's on the court with him. He's 7K and 6-7, but it's a great Lakers spot. I know you'll have interest in Luka, but are there other Dallas players that you want to get above the field on?
Yeah, and it's going to be as painful to talk about as Hayward Highsmith and Jamal Cain, because I think that outside of Luka and Christian Wood, the pieces that actually are interesting to me in tournaments are the ones I really don't want to play. But starting with Luka, to me, he's just the clear top projected, and not to me, to everybody in the world. If he's not, then you're wrong. The clear top projected guy on the slate. Not only is he the best point per minute guy, he's playing huge minutes without Kleba, without Dorian Finney-Smith. You're just consistently seeing 40 plus minutes from him. So that's one thing that really separates him from Embiid for me. I mentioned it earlier when we talked about Embiid, that with Luka pulling about the same ownership, it's probably going to cost me some Embiid, even though I love the Embiid spot, because you can really only project Embiid for like 35, 36 minutes tops. And then obviously, if he plays really well, there's an increased chance that game blows out. Here you have a 2-point spread with Dallas on the road as 2-point favorites, and Luka just likely to play 5, 6, 7 minutes more than Embiid while producing more fantasy points per minute. I really, really want to be getting to Luka here, especially really, I mean, not just in 150 max, like, small fields, I want to get to Luka as well. But from a 150 max standpoint too, you can just kind of rotate through all of these cheap pieces, these, $3,500 guys we've been talking about. Some of them are going to do well, even though they all suck individually. There's going to be a couple $3,500 guys that outperform projections. That's how projections work. And, help you, get Luka into your lineup. So there's a very, very good chance Luka ends up in the winning lineups tonight. I expect to have a lot of him. Christian Wood looks good as well. 8,300 with power forward eligibility. Probably a little difficult to get to him in the same lineups as Luka, just because, at that point you're spending like 21K on two guys. But in non-Luka lineups, I think he makes a lot of sense. Also, if you can just get to him with Luka, then great. One Q tag on this team, though, that I do think matters, even though it doesn't seem like it should, is Dwight Powell being questionable. We'd seen Powell starting alongside Christian Wood. So for one, if Dwight Powell's in at 3K flat, he's worth a dart throw. He could play mid-20s minutes if he starts. Again, you can't be confident in it, but he's not going to get ownership, and he's not any worse than these other guys. But also, if he's out, you can project a couple of extra minutes to Christian Wood, just because there's more front court minutes available. As far as the rest of the guys, Hardaway and Dinwiddie, I think Hardaway looks much better on FanDuel. 5,800 on DraftKings for him. He's only averaged about 0.7 DraftKings points per minute in these games without Finney-Smith and Kleba. He's averaging 36 minutes per game, but just like you were saying with Spencer Dinwiddie, you're getting a ton of playing time, but you're getting reduced per minute production because Luka is out there like the entire time, and then Wood is also out there with Luka for so many minutes. It takes usage away from Hardaway, it takes usage away from Dinwiddie, so that's problematic. As far as the cheap pieces here, Reggie Bullock at 3,300 is awful. He is playing the Lakers. He is 2% owned. He projects for 16 fantasy points, which is about the same as guys that are getting way more ownership than him. So again, he's just another spot where you can pivot away, hope that he knocks down the corner threes that he takes, runs into a couple steals, a few extra rebounds bounce to him, whatever it may be. It's just kind of how I see this slate. Like, it's very, very difficult to pivot away from Luka, Holiday, Irving, guys like that. It's very easy to pivot away from guys like Marshawn Beauchamp and Cody Martin and just hope to get lucky with some other cheap guys. Jaden Hardy's also been in the rotation here. He's 3,200 at shooting guard, played like 14 to 16 minutes last game. Kidd had said that he was hoping to get him around 20 minutes. Jason Kidd typically says he would like to do things and then doesn't do them. So, I expect mid-20 or mid-teens in minutes from him again at no ownership. But I think Bullock, Powell, to a lesser extent, Hardy or Bertans even, are just unowned guys that are going to come through often enough that they're kind of interesting ways to get away from Beauchamp and Martin and those guys.
Yeah, I think that was a great breakdown of the Mavs team. I don't mind getting above the field on a guy like Reggie Bullock, as gross as it sounds, especially on DraftKings where you get the 3-point bonus. But click that like button. We're going to move on to the Lakers side of things that we have 10 minutes about before we hand things off for live before lock. So click that like button for us, and we're going to talk about LeBron James. LeBron James is 35 points away from hitting 38K points. I think people have been talking about that all day today about his potential player props points bet. But in terms of a DFS standpoint, he's 10, 9, and 11K on this slate. I'm willing to get above the field on a guy like LeBron. I have no issues to get above the field on a guy like LeBron James, but everyone else on this team, I can't really advocate the same sentiment. It's really difficult. Their price, like LeBron James, is out, and he's not. He's going to be playing tonight. He's 4-1 on 4-1 Kendrick Nunn, and $3,700 Kendrick Nunn on DraftKings is getting the highest ownership among any other Laker at this moment, which feels really gross to go to. I don't even know what his minutes will look like in this situation. They continue to miss guys, Austin Reeves, Lonnie Walker, Pat Bev. So none should be in the rotation. But outside of LeBron James, is there a Laker that we should be like trying to get aggressively above the field on? It's really difficult for me to do so.
I have pretty much no interest in the Lakers outside of LeBron. And I think LeBron's going to be kind of tough for me to get to as well, just because he's not named Luka. He's another one. He's pulling 19% ownership. Luka's pulling 20. I get that you have better positional eligibility on LeBron. Like you could go LeBron and then use, Kyrie, maybe Drew. I don't, and then cheap guys to round it out. Or, you could just go a little bit more balanced because he's a forward and, you can just get to those mid-range centers or guards or whatever. Like you can still build good lineups with LeBron, but with the way ownership looks right now, I think I'm just going to be prioritizing Luka so heavily that it's probably going to cost me a bit of LeBron. As far as the rest of this team, though, I just have no idea where else you go. Like maybe Kendrick Nunn at 3%, but also Troy Brown Jr. being back sort of messes up this rotation. It adds another body to it. I don't really see anything outside of LeBron.
Speaking of your one of your favorite spend up options, we got a super chat from John Bryant, $4.99. Wonder if he's related to Thomas Bryant. Doubt it, but $4.99 super chat from John Bryant asking, who's your favorite player to build around Luka tonight on DraftKings?
So I mean, it kind of, I guess, depends on what you mean. Kyrie is probably my second like biggest priority after Luka. If you put them in the same lineup, you have like $4,700 per position. So if in that sense, it's probably Kyrie. In terms of like who do I think I probably get to the most in Luka lineups, Bobby Portis is probably up there. Ben Simmons, Gabe Vincent, from a value standpoint. So kind of depends what you mean, but Kyrie is, I think, the second best, just ignoring how easy he is to fit with Luka. I think Kyrie is the second biggest priority for me.
Thank you for breaking that down, and thank you for that super chat. Onto the Cleveland and Portland game we go. Click that like button for us. And on the Cleveland side of things, it's Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. Jared Allen left the game last game with some sort of food illness. He was throwing up before the game and ended up throwing up, I think, during halftime. So I think JB Bickerstaff was like, you're not playing anymore, which is annoying. I liked Jared Allen in that spot against Utah the other night. But against this Portland team, this team's not getting that much ownership. This team's fairly healthy. They're not missing anyone significant, and they're supposed to get back Ricky Rubio tonight, who's $3,500 coming back from an ACL injury. And with this team fully healthy, it's difficult to go to one of these guys in any significant fashion. There's a guy who I would like to get above the field on. It's probably Jared Allen at 6,100. And over there, he's 7,200 on FanDuel. But that's really about it. Everyone else is priced appropriately / too expensive. You can make a case for Garland at that sub-8 price tag on both sites. But this Cleveland team is tough because they're fully healthy, and there are a bunch of other teams that are not.
Yeah, I think this is a really useful team if you end up going more balanced, which if Luka weren't on this slate, I would think is much, much more interesting. Because you can go to like a low-owned Darius Garland. You can go to a low-owned Jared Allen, and they certainly are capable of giving you really big games. The problem is just that Luka is on this slate, and he's such a big priority for me that, if I'm going to Luka and then going to Kyrie, like it starts to become difficult to get to Garland. But I do think Garland's an interesting tournament pivot away from guys like Kyrie or Drew Holiday that are pulling way more ownership. Like Drew Holiday projects better, but he's getting 5 times the ownership. Kyrie's getting similar and also more expensive. So I do think in tournaments, Garland makes some sense. Like he should play 36 minutes or so. I'm not concerned by Rubio's return. Maybe eventually that cuts into Garland's playing time, but I don't think it will now. It probably won't ever, but certainly don't expect it to now. Jared Allen, kind of the same thing at 6,100. He's not really pulling ownership. I don't think he's a drastically different play than Nick Claxton, who's getting 23%. I think Claxton projects better. I don't think he projects that much better. Nurkic on the other side of this game also projects better. Probably doesn't project twice as good. Evan Mobley at power forward looks pretty good as well. Mitchell, you know the ceiling you're getting, but he's up in that SGA James Harden price tier, so that makes it pretty tough for me to get to him. But as far as Garland and Allen in particular, I think are very, very good pivots away from some of the more popular plays, whether that's Claxton in Allen's case or Drew and Kyrie in Garland's case.
Yeah, I think this team's just kind of like a casualty of the slate. I mean, if Milwaukee and Brooklyn were on the slate, they will be so much higher round with other teams just because of guys like KD and Giannis missing. They just kind of fall off the radar. Certainly great tournament options across the board. In a Portland spot we're able to touch on. We did get one more super chat from Aiden, a $2 super chat asking any lean on if Jaylen Brown will play or not.
Jaylen Brown was just ruled out, so I am going to lean no.
Wow, that just changed the slate. Before we touch on Portland, I think obviously Jason Tatum looks good, looks really good. And then how do we attract the Jaylen Brown minutes? Do you think it's more Marcus Smart, Malcolm Brogdon, any specific wing player that sticks out?
Yeah, so I mean, it's clearly a bump for all of the normal guys, Jason Tatum in particular. He's at 1.4 DraftKings points per minute without Brown this year. He also just doesn't come with that same opportunity cost as guys like Kyrie or Drew that, are guards because there's just not as many good forward plays today. So it makes Tatum look great. Grant Williams should play more minutes. We've seen huge minutes from him recently. I expect you'll see that again. The backup minutes, you probably get some Cornette, some Hauser, some Pritchard where they don't really matter in DFS, but they'll just sort of round out the rotation. But I do expect you'll see a little bit more playing time from Malcolm Brogdon, probably a few more minutes from Derek White and Marcus Smart. So it really just makes all of the guys on Boston that looked decent when we talked about them before all just look good now.
Yeah, they expect a huge update among our ownership projections, real player projections momentarily. They're already working behind the scenes and getting that ready to go. Well, let's move on to the Portland side of things, as this team, the ownership will definitely change with the Jaylen Brown situation here. Lillard is questionable, and that's really big news because if he were to out, I'll be looking to guys like Anthony Simons, and he'll definitely look outstanding. But if Lillard were to play, I have some interest in getting Tim in tournaments. Dame looks pretty solid at 9.6 and 9.2, but not a priority whatsoever. The rest of this team, if you want to play some Nurkic at 6,800 on DraftKings, you certainly can. But everyone else looks just to kind of shrug your shoulders and move on. I continue to play Anthony Simons across the board at 6.5 and 6K, but he'll look really good if Dame is out. He looks okay right now / good with the situation with Dame in. Quick breakdown of this Portland team before we hand things off to Live Before Lock.
Yeah, I mean, if Dame is in, I think they kind of just, like you said, shrug your shoulders. They look okay across the board. Nurkic and Simons would be the ones I get to first. Nurkic at 6,800 looks pretty good. Simons at 6,500 looks okay, but obviously not as good as if Lillard's out. One thing about Portland, they've kind of gone the Nick Nurse route where over the last couple of games, they are playing huge minutes. And I'm not completely projecting those again, but I have, given an extra minute to, a couple of guys. But you've been getting, you got like 42 minutes last game from Anthony Simons. He's averaging 36.5 over his last 10. Grant's averaging like 37 over his last 10. He played 40 last night. So there is a path to them playing, more minutes than they're priced for. But the combination of there being several very unhealthy teams on this slate and a very difficult matchup with Cleveland is just enough to make this a team that I can't really build around. If Lillard's out, obviously that starts to change.
Yep. Well, thanks so much for joining us. Everyone click that like button for us. Keep on top of that data and tools update across the board. And there will be some other news that definitely breaks throughout Live Before Lock. Good luck, everybody. Yet again, thanks so much for joining us on today's Deeper Dive.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the January 12th edition of the NBA Bet Pro video. I'm your host, Adam Scherer. You can follow me on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. We have a 6-game NBA slate tonight. As we have the last couple of days, we're going to look at some of the best prop bets using our new NBA Bet Pro tool. For anyone not familiar or that needs a quick refresher, this is the new betting tool that we have available on the Stokastic website and on the OddsShopper website. It is powered by the same people that do our DFS projections, same models that do our DFS projections. And it is a quick way for you to be able to see what the best bets, the best player prop bets are across multiple sites. So if you're someone that has a bankroll on a variety of sites and you're just looking for the best bets that you can get, we have this best bets tab right here. And that's just going to show you what we have projected as the best wagers for you to make across the industry. Here, for example, it's Kyrie Irving over 3.5 3-pointers on FanDuel at plus 140. But if you are someone that just likes to bet on one or two sites, you also can just choose the site that you want to bet on. You'll be able to see the top bets available there as well. And then we also have multiple statistics for you to look at that should give you an idea of what to expect from each wager. You have the win percentage, which is simply telling you how often you should expect to win that bet. The expected value is your expected ROI on that individual wager. And then the two that I think are the most interesting, S-bet percentage tells you the recommended wager percentage of your bankroll. So that's going to factor in things like the expected ROI, but also the expected win percentage. And SEV, which gives you an idea of how much you should expect your bankroll to grow by if you bet the recommended amount on that wager. So that's slightly different than, or not slightly, that is different than the ROI of the individual wager. That's telling you how much you can expect your bankroll to grow. We also have the injury information here. We have, different color-coded highlights for players when their teammates are questionable. For example, Thomas Bryant here, you have players on the Lakers that are questionable. So you probably wouldn't want to bet, for example, the under on his rebounds until we know for sure who's playing for the Lakers, because if you were to get guys ruled out, then the under probably isn't going to be a good bet anymore. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Just makes it a little bit easier when you look at the tool to get an idea of where you really want to be placing your bets. So as a reminder also, or for the first time, if you haven't watched these videos before, we are offering a 7-day free trial on this tool. Just sign up, take advantage for 7 days. You can play around with it, see how it helps you, figure out exactly how you want to use it. 7-day free trial, take advantage of that. And now, as we have the last couple of days, we're going to go through each of the sports books and just look at one of the best bets for each one. Starting with BetMGM, we have Kyrie Irving over 3.5 3-pointers at plus 130. You're expected to win that bet about 49% of the time. Of course, there is no Kevin Durant today, so that helps Irving. We recommend betting about 7.2% of your bankroll. This wager has an expected ROI of 13%, and you can expect your bankroll to grow by 0.61% if you make this bet. Moving over to
I'm here to fuck with Jordan. I'm fine with it. That works for me. Surprised you can count to 5, Jordan. And we are live. Welcome to NBA Live Before Lock. It is Thursday, January 12th. I am Josh Engleman. I am joined by Eric Lindquist. We are brought to you by Underdog. Lots to talk about, crazy value all over the place, really solid pay-up options, and the breaking news that Jaylen Brown is going to be out for the Boston Celtics tonight. We are going to dig into that right away. Before we get started, got to make up for the deeper dive ahead of us. 350 likes on this show is 150 less than it should be. So let's just get to neutral now. Hit the like button, get up to 500 so that we can be in the right spot for the start of the show, and then we'll tack them on as we move forward. Thank you guys for that. Eric, how are you?
Doing good. Obviously, slate changed a little bit here with that news. Gonna kind of continue updating some stuff. I know we're updating some stuff on the back end, but looking forward to this slate. Looking forward to, having, I don't know. I think that there's some good tournament options where people are just valuing like identical plays the same. And when that's clear cut, I think that I'm a little bit more excited about certain slates. The slates I don't like is when they're just absolute free squares everywhere. I think that there's some faux value for a lot of people out there in the streets.
You want to break down this Boston situation now? Just before we got started, Jaylen Brown ruled out. We already know there's going to be no Al Horford in this one. Not all that surprising. We assume that Robert Williams is still quite limited. So I don't think that we have to really touch on Jason Tatum here. He looked like a solid enough play before this. He's obviously a better play now. Do you have any like brand new Jason Tatum take for today?
Not really, other than, I think that he always pales in comparison to some of the other studs that exist on slates. We have no Giannis, but we do have in that late night window, we've got LeBron and we've got Luka, two pieces that I generally like more than I would find Jason Tatum appealing. I think it's just going to be aware of what that ownership gets to, because at current ownership, I would definitely love getting to Jason Tatum, but we'll see where that number ends up landing. I'm just playing on DraftKings today. He's 10-5 with small forward, power forward eligibility, and small forward is kind of a weird position as it is. That's the one I'm getting to. I do not know what to do with Grant Williams, because I do not like Grant Williams just about ever, but he has played 37 and 38 minutes the last two with a start. And, he was kind of the bane of my existence coming down the stretch of the NBA Finals last year. It's just not a very appealing play, and yet he's the guy who's pulling the most ownership out of everybody. We're going to see Marcus Smart and Derek White and Malcolm Brogdon all pull a little bit more ownership as we get closer here. Marcus Smart, I think, being by far the guy that I want to get to the most, but for the most part, it's just such a weird thing with Grant Williams where I just don't want to play him, and I expect him to get pretty chalky coming shortly.
Yeah, I mean, he's hard to avoid in that now you have to feel pretty safe giving him those 36 minutes that he's seen these past two games. You're missing Horford, which, is partially offset by missing Robert Williams, but it's not as if Grant Williams didn't play 37 minutes with Marcus Smart out on Monday. Right. If you want to say that it's going to look the same way, I think that probably is the case. Now you're losing Jaylen Brown. So basically what we're doing is we've had Marcus Smart out for 2 games. I don't want to say that it's a 1-to-1 swap for Jaylen Brown, because they obviously very different usage rates, but for all intents and purposes, we're talking about removing a hardcore starter, replacing him with a different starter, removing Al Horford, bringing back Robert Williams. It's like a 6-minute difference. So I don't think the changes are as dramatic as it seems on the surface.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, Marcus Smart has just an 18% usage rate this season with no Jaylen Brown and no Al Horford on the floor. You're looking at Malcolm Brogdon being the guy who's pulling a lot. And I still like Marcus Smart. He's got other utility. I mean, he's going to be able to rack up other stats that aren't necessarily just out there chucking it. But everybody became a little bit more interesting. Grant Williams, though, God, just such a bad fantasy performer. And I get it. 38 minutes, no Al Horford. It makes a lot of sense now. No Jaylen Brown. But I'm curious to see where that ownership gets here a little bit shortly, because I don't know how I look at him in the context as I'm just updating everything. Like, I have to compare him to all the Milwaukee pieces, the Miami pieces, some of those cheapies, everybody on Brooklyn, it would seem like. The nice thing is that if you are taking some shots on the Brooklyn guys, you're going to get more Boston pieces to come along for the ride now, whereas before it kind of felt like a little bit of an island. I just don't know what to do with him. He's kind of the one piece I'm struggling with the most.
I have him ahead of basically everything in the 39 in the sub 4K range, because I think Gabe Vincent sort of sets the market at 4K. In the sub 4K range, I right now have Grant Williams projected better than everybody else, better than TJ Warren, better than Pat Connaughton, Javon Carter, Seth Curry, Haywood Highsmith, Beauchamp, whoever else you want to name in this area. If for some reason TJ Warren got named the starter in like the next 15 minutes or something, I could see that making a change in him passing Grant Williams. But I think relying on those minutes is going to be pretty easy for Grant Williams.
I think in cash, should just play him. And if you're talking about who I think is the best play, I'm probably with you, where I think sub 4K, he's going to be the guy that projects out the best, but I expect the ownership to just go through the ceiling. He's been kind of chalky the last couple slates when I don't necessarily think it was completely warranted. We did see the 37 minutes not starting, and then tons of minutes there, and you saw exactly what's capable, an 11.2% usage rate, and everything dipped off against New Orleans, and it was just more of who Grant Williams is. Didn't end up burning it, but I don't know. it feels as though the piece that I'm going to try to get away from if he gets started, and I expect him to get to around like 30-ish% pretty soon.
We just got a member question from Fantasy Guru, wants to know best shooting guard on FanDuel between 5K and 6K. I can't imagine there are a ton of options for this, but I'll go ahead and give it a look. Assuming we can include the $5,000 price tag and the $6,000 price tag, unless you mean 51 to 59, it makes it a little trickier. Doesn't really matter here. To me, the answer is Victor Oladipo. If you would prefer Malcolm Brogdon or Marcus Smart, I think those are also two very viable options. Anthony Simons would be interesting at that 6K mark. I have him behind Oladipo, but I would have him well above Oladipo if we happen to get that Dame Lillard news. So if I had to rule it down, if you wanted to take a shot on Simons, I like him in general. If you want to take cross your fingers, hope for the upside of Lillard being ruled out, that would be the direction I would go. Otherwise, my answer is Victor Oladipo.
Yeah, I think probably slightly for me, I'm going to go Brogdon just because, I mean, I'm updating everything. 27.5% usage for Brogdon, no Horford, no Brown on the floor this year, 296 minutes. He is clear cut above just about everybody else with those two off the floor. Of course, there's a lot of situations where he's going to come off the bench and just be awesome in the second unit here. I feel pretty good about Brogdon and Oladipo. So, I mean, you're not really going wrong either way.
Bobby B's with the super chat. Curry off the bench or Harris? DK utility at 3,600.
Gary Harris is on this slate.
Joe Harris.
Oh, there you go. I was like, what? Joe Harris starting whatever. He's just a dude, 3,300. Could he knock down some shots? I was going through a lot of his dunks and threes yesterday. He has been horrendous shooting the basketball this year. But now the price is offset. There's no Kevin Durant. He's the guy starting. You can throw 41. I mean, still 44th percentile true shooting percentage. I think he's going to be all right regardless. You're just going to get to some shares, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah, look, just because Joe Harris is starting doesn't necessarily mean he's closing, but I assume that he is. Just seems like an easier mechanism here. I'd rather just simply bet on the fact that Joe Harris is starting. Ownership plays a role, but I can't give an answer to Bobby B's based on ownership. I don't know what the rest of a lineup looks like. I don't know if this is like a general question. I don't even like it becomes kind of difficult. So it's hard to not say Joe Harris is the guy that's projected better. He's starting now.
Correct.
Oh yeah. This is a hell of a slate, man. I feel like when I looked at this earlier today on the process, I feel like that was a different day.
I feel like that a lot. I start looking at the next day's slate the night before and break down 9 games or 6 in this event. Tomorrow's 9. Like I've already started looking ahead to some things and kind of have to remember what's going on. And I'm kind of glad because it does feel like a completely different slate. Like there are pieces that I didn't anticipate. I mean, you got to go through the Drew Holidays and all the Milwaukee stuff that changes drastically. And Embiid was somebody that I planned on getting to tons of, and now it's turning into a lot of Jason Tatum, it would seem, my last run on DK. Stuff is just changing for me.
Well, normally we would be getting into the guards to start this off, but we're already 15 minutes into this bad boy. It didn't take long. But look, we had the Boston news right out of the gate. We got the Joe Harris starting news right out of the gate. Those are things that we needed to deal with. They are very relevant pieces of information that we need to deal with before we get started. That's just how this works.
That is correct.
All right. I'm going to start a crunch on the back end, and then we can talk a little bit about guards. I also have to tell you guys a little bit about Underdog and BetMGM and deals that we have, BetPro. There's so many different things that I could let you guys know about. And luckily for you, we're going to be here until 7:30. So I have all of the time to shill all of the things over the next hour and 15 minutes. Makes me feel good, right?
Yeah. You're enthusiastic about it. I'm ready.
All right. Crunch is running, so I don't have to pay too much attention to that for right now. I could just let it rip. We do got to talk about Underdog. Are you into the playoff Underdog drafts?
Yeah, I did a ton of mittens today. Did not do them while we were on meetings. Did not do that in any way, shape, or form. I do not have a bazillion Buffalo, Minnesota Vikings stacks or anything like that.
Homer. So If you haven't ever messed around on Underdog, you're looking to do best ball drafts. That's going to be the key piece here. For right now, it's going to be playoff best ball drafts for the NFL. The Mitten and the Gauntlet. So it's the Mitten 4, the Gauntlet 2. They are the two biggest contests that are running right now on Underdog. They're the ones you want to try to get into before they fill. As of right now, it's looking like the Mitten is very close to filling. There's about 3,000 entries left. That's going to be a $5 entry fee, 250,000 in prizes. It's $35K up top. And then the $25 gauntlet is about half full. That's going to be $200,000 to first, $1 million in prizes. Those are the two majors, but got a lot of other contest options for you on Underdog. And it doesn't necessarily just have to be playoff NFL. There are multiple sports. You could do daily drafts for other sports as well. And here's the best part of all of it. If you really do want to get into those big contests, there is a link in the description of this video. Click it, head on over to Underdog, or you could just use the promo code Stokastic, which I assume Jordan can put on the screen. It's already on the screen, I assume. Even if it's not, Jordan knows how to do that kind of stuff. You get a first match deposit bonus of up to $100. So if you put $100 in, you can go ahead and get yourself 8 entries into the gauntlet, take that shot at 200K, or you can get yourself 20 entries into the Mitten if you want to try to really get some drafts in by the time we get to Saturday. That would be my recommendation. Take a shot at the Mitten, take a shot at the gauntlet, mix and match, whatever you want to do here. But go check out Underdog Fantasy, folks. It's a really fun mechanism. I wish that I played more best ball.
Should have. It was awesome. I mean, I lost money this year, but it was still awesome.
There you go. All right. I hit you with this question every time that you and I do live before locks together. Who is your favorite guard play for today? Very difficult question because there are many different directions you can go here.
There are, but there's only one Kyrie Irving without Kevin Durant. He's 8,800. Okay. It's a conversation about him or Drew Holiday. And I was looking at some points props for Drew Holiday. It's kind of wild that he's down to like 21.5. I think just from a raw ceiling perspective, Kyrie Irving, he's going to have to do a lot for this basketball team. I mean, he's right around a 1.2 fantasy point per minute guy. That's going to be trending up with no Kevin Durant. I feel pretty good about him playing 38 minutes in competitive spots here. We now have a lot of Boston pieces we have along for the ride. That was kind of what I was alluding to. Kyrie Irving, my highest owned guard right now, and I doubt that changes before lock.
Hard for me to disagree with the Kyrie Irving take. If you wanted to give me, you obviously did give me the Drew Holiday answer, which I think is very viable. If you wanted to tell me it was Gabe Vincent, I do think that is a very reasonable answer, but he kind of looks a little bit different today. Didn't know if you were going to give me the Luka Doncic answer. 12,800. Are you getting there?
Yeah, I mean, I bet a triple double here too. I had to hit up my boy Aton. We're riding a little bit. Luka Doncic, triple-double action. He's ridiculous, 12-8. And look how many pieces of value you can rotate through. I'm double the field right now. I am getting a little bit less than I was before. I was north of like 45, 50%. And anybody who's watched these shows know that I just end up jamming Luka whenever there's any kind of value you can rotate through. Now, the Beauchamp, the Connaughtons, everybody's cheap and gives you access to the raw points. You kind of have to get them right. So it really depends how many lineups you're playing. If you're playing 150, if you're playing, as many as what Josh, myself, do on a daily basis, you're going to get more Luka Doncic, I think, just because it's easy to rotate through a lot of these guys that have some question marks with them, the Cody Martins of the world that I don't feel good about in any way, shape, or form. But there's so many guys that look like that I think just getting to more Luka and trying to hit the right combination feels like a pretty serviceable way to go about it. My thing is that Kyrie and Drew just stand out so much, even in the mid-range or, borderline stud it is 8,800, 7,700. They're not cheap. They're not 5-6K or anything like that, nor would they ever be. But I'm getting to just so much of them because they project out not similar to Luka, but they're just so good that it gives me maybe one other piece that I like more in my lineup.
So I'm playing very, very, very limited lineups today on the FanDuel side. Wife's been out of town for a couple of days. She just landed, so she'll be getting home shortly. I don't want to pay attention to anything all the way up until 10 o'clock tonight. So in 20 lineups, I currently have Luka Doncic in every single one of them. I also have Drew Holiday in every single one of them. 12-2 Luka on FanDuel, to me, a very different play than 12-8 on DraftKings with a little bit more flexibility. But yeah, both he and Drew Holiday are in every single thing that I'm doing. Victor Oladipo, not too far behind at 5,800. That one I don't love, but that's just mostly me not liking Victor Oladipo.
I get it. He's got shooting guard over there, right?
He does.
Only shooting guard?
No, but that's just me saying that without having looked. I'm getting there.
Yeah. What's happening to Kyrie for you then?
Where is Oladipo? Who's point guard, shooting guard, 5,800.
Got it. Okay.
Kyrie definitely plays today. That's one thing that I can tell you. Kyrie Irving is in precisely nothing that I'm doing.
Awesome. That's
now,
nifty.
To be fair, Kyrie on FanDuel is 9,300. That's not as advantageous of a price tag as the $8,800 tag on the DraftKings side. I mean, clearly very rosterable. I don't mean to underplay him at all, but I've just gotten to other pieces in my small amount of lineups for today.
Well, I'm curious about what you're doing with point guard, power forward Ben Simmons on FanDuel. I've never in my life seen such a thing.
I basically don't have him.
Okay.
The guy that I have the most of anybody on Brooklyn right now is Joe Harris, 4,300. I don't like it at all. I really honestly couldn't hate it much more, but for right now, the answer is Joe Harris. I don't have a ton of Brooklyn. All right. If we're talking about the teams that I'm most exposed to right now, it's Miami. It's just tons of Bam, Oladipo, Strus, Gabe Vincent. It's Milwaukee with Drew, obviously, Bobby Portis. I'm getting to Marshawn Beauchamp, which scares the shit out of me. Luka making up. The team that I'm most exposed to third is Dallas, and it's all Luka.
That's hilarious. It makes sense. Again, FanDuel, he's like, that's just ridiculous. I mean, you get enough guys that have the shooting guard eligibility. It's pretty easy to build out however you want over there. You would just... I've been playing more FanDuel recently on a lot of these shows, and it just seems like I lock in Luka almost every night.
You and me both. Is there a guy pulling a ton of ownership at guard that you aren't necessarily fond of?
Yeah, Seth Curry. I don't feel very good about Seth Curry at 21%. I get the circumstances change, and it just kind of speaks to like the rotate through a lot of the guys. I understand getting to him, but there are so many pieces at point guard, shooting guard. Like Gabe Vincent's pulling more ownership. I just think he's a much, much better play compared to Seth Curry. Anthony Simons kind of weirds me out a little bit. 6,500 for him at 7.8% over on DK. He could always get hot from three. I get he's a low owned option there in the mid range, but I mean, there's so many guys that can go for 35 that are 3,500, 4K, 4,500 on this kind of a slate where it's like, I don't really need to be spending another $3,000 to be going his direction. That one kind of weirds me out. I feel like you should just be going all the way to the top, all the way to the bottom, or the obvious Kyrie Drew that we've been talking about. I'm not super fond of getting to the mid range. Even Marcus Smart, I thought I was going to be getting to a ton of him. I'm getting to a lot more Malcolm Brogdon just because of what that ownership currently is at. And because of what I said before, that usage is kind of out of control coming off the bench. Everything seems to be standing out for Malcolm Brogdon to maybe have a ceiling game at 1/3, 1/4 of the ownership of that of Marcus Smart. So I'm kind of undercutting that at the moment. Might get to a little bit more here in the next run, but as it stands right now, that's kind of what I'm doing.
Yeah, we're projecting 38% ownership to go to Marcus Smart on FanDuel, 10% to Brogdon. They're separated by $100. I'm very surprised to see so much going to Smart today in comparison to Brogdon. I don't see it that way on paper. I would be, if I were playing my full set of 150, Marcus Smart would probably be one of the guys that I'm most under on in comparison to I assume, just because of guys like Brogdon on his own team.
Yeah, it's just weird. This is one of those situations where the public sees, the person who's not starting is maybe not getting a bump because they still have the same role or something of that nature. I don't really know what it is, but looking at FanDuel, Malcolm Brogdon's $100 more than Marcus Smart. There's just no reason that he should be is he 4 times more likely to smash than that of Malcolm Brogdon. Malcolm Brogdon's the better fantasy point per minute producer. Even under these circumstances where you have him out, you're seeing 9% difference in usage between Brogdon and Smart. One's coming off the bench and is probably going to be staggered a little bit with Jason Tatum. I mean, they're going to share the floor a lot, but you got to imagine that Brogdon is coming in and Jason Tatum's going out in that first rotation at some point there. So I'm just looking at Brogdon as just a phenomenal tournament play.
We got a couple more super chats here that I want to touch on. K2 Superman said, just wanted to say that I dabbled around a bit with other sites and crunch programs over the past year. Everything else is a waste of time and money. Stokastic is where it's at. We should make a t-shirt with that on it. Thank you for that super chat. I couldn't agree more, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely love it. Appreciate you.
I might be biased, but I really couldn't agree more there.
Yeah, no, we totally don't have any desire for this company to succeed in any way, shape, or form.
Nope, not at all. And then Brad has the super chat. Eric is a green checkmark loving prison bone garage.
Jesus Christ. It's a lot. It's a lot of
Should
stuff. I had jury duty yesterday out of the middle of nowhere. Got called in for that. And I got dismissed. Thank God. I didn't even have to talk. They had 40 people ushered in. They took 16. They had 4 alternates and 12 on the jury. I was number 38 of 40. They interviewed the first 32 people. I was like, oh my God. And I just got to sit there and watch some of the craziest stuff. Jordan Klein. Seriously? Why? People are watching this. Josh has no idea you're just a bad person.
Yeah. Can you imagine if you would have got like the OJ trial? Like obviously not now, but if you went for jury duty and all of a sudden it was like, oh, hey guys, I can't work for 3 months.
I mean, this wasn't murder. This wasn't just DUI. This was like somewhere in the middle of things. And it was intense. It was one of the, it was wild to watch it all play out because there's a lot of things that just getting interviewed or watching the interviews between the district attorney, for the city, and then the prosecuting attorney, and then the attorney for the guy. It was wild to watch them interview jurors. It was truly one of the more entertaining 3 hours you could ever have. And then thank God I didn't have to make a decision, do anything for the jury.
At least you'll get a check in the mail for $8 or something.
$15.
Ooh, man, it's just printing cash. I had to go once at a previous job, which I was kind of excited about. Never even got out of the room. We sat in what was essentially like a school room for 3 hours. Nobody came in, and then everybody came in and they were like, you guys could all go. Like, all right, I'm not going back to work.
Yeah. I brought my Phil Mickelson book and just read that Alan Shipnick. I just read that for pretty much the entire time I was there.
Can you imagine what this was like in, 2008 when you didn't have a smartphone?
No, it would have been
like you got to take a magazine or something. You're just like passing around old Sports Illustrateds and shit.
Yeah, well, I was still updating in Slack because I had Chris and Nolan. I was like, maybe I'll make it for Live Before Lock. I don't know, probably not. And Emac picked up the Slack for me, which was awesome. I was able to jump on, and we had a little menage a trois to finish it all out. But yeah, you heard what I said. But
you go to France for like 2 weeks, and all of a sudden you just can't stop speaking French.
Just certain je ne sais quoi, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Je m'appelle
baguette. Baguette.
Yeah, exactly.
Bunch of super chats just popped in now. Shane Daly said, it's hard out here for a pimp. What's Tatum's bump without Brown?
What is Tatum's bump without Brown? Significant, 35.6% usage. He's a 1.45 DraftKings points per minute producer. That's what I've got him in 348 minutes. We've seen repeatedly this happen for him where he gets a bump. He's going to be able to go out and chuck. It's a good matchup. Everything is nice. Like Jason Tatum just looks great.
Michael McKinney wants to know who are the 5 must-play plays in FanDuel Cash. That's going to be Gabe Vincent for sure, Drew Holiday for sure, Bobby Portis for sure. Mm-hmm. Seems like Marcus Smart is one of those answers. That would probably be one of another guard spot.
And Luka for sure.
Yeah. I would say Luka's going to be that final guard spot.
I mean, it's Luka. You get Jimmy Butler. I am a little bit confused by Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo's ownership over on FanDuel. Like, there are extremes where you can get to a 12-2 Luka. Are you pulling any ownership with those two guys? Because they seem to be guys that just look over-owned to me today.
For which two guys?
Bam and Jimmy Butler.
Bam, yes. Tons. Jimmy Butler, no. But I never get to Butler. Like, he's just a guy that never shows up in my lineups, generally speaking.
Yeah, I sorted by optimal percentage in the boom bust one. I was just curious because they are showing up 5th and 6th in it. And the Jimmy Butler one confuses me. And this is a guy that I basically jammed last slate. It's just Bam Adebayo's back. Why are we jamming again? I don't understand.
Well, probably because there's only 8 guys.
Well, there's that. Heat players available. Hey, on cue. Look at that. And, you know, there's a couple donkey dicks that just suck down. Jamal Cain, let's go.
Yeah. And I don't expect Udonis Haslem to be a guy that plays today, with at least not on purpose.
He might come out and fight Jimmy Butler again just for fun. Keep it
It'll be interesting to see.
Oh, my God. Our worst nightmare. Our worst nightmare on OKC. The Jalen Williams special in the starting unit. Been waiting for it all year. And it happens today.
Oh, it's happened a couple times at this point.
Oh, it has? I haven't noticed it.
Yeah. I'm not surprised by that. I kind of expected to see an actual center start just to eat, a couple minutes against Embiid, and none of it matters. It doesn't make a difference to me at all who that 5th starter is.
Well, you weren't going to start a 6'7" Kenrich Williams at the center position against Joel Embiid today?
I mean, if you're just going to throw a double the whole way, it's not like Jalen Williams with a Y is just going to lock down Embiid one-on-one. No. So you might be better off just starting the smaller dude.
Yeah. Omoyuri. Kind of weird he's not starting, though. He's been starting the last couple.
I'm sure he'll start the second half.
That's true.
Our boy Jorge hit us with a super chat as well. He said, welcome back from prison. Eric, do you guys still prefer Luka over Tatum despite Brown being out? I do.
Luka.
I'm talking from a FanDuel perspective too, so.
I like Luka more than anybody on every slate, and I have more Jason Tatum at the moment.
Okay. Yeah, I would prefer Luka, all things considered. I have him projected so far above everybody else on the slate, it's insane.
Yeah, he's playing the Lakers. Like, I have him for 68 fantasy points on DraftKings.com. Like, it is absurd. And it's something that I routinely, again, projections. It is incredible how sharp some of the guys have been here at Stokastic over the last couple months. It is unbelievable. And the only thing that I feel like I've really manually done on a couple of these slates has been like, all right, I'm not getting nearly enough Luka, and I've generally projected him about 3 or 4 fantasy points more. Even today, this is the highest projection I've ever seen on any player since probably the James Harden Houston without Chris Paul. Yeah. We're talking 66.77 fantasy points on DraftKings right now. I've never seen a projection that high, period, for any game in any spot. And we've only got him for 20.5% ownership. Pretty clear-cut double the field spot.
Domer had a super chat. Thomas Bryant or Yusuf Nurkic? I don't know which site, but I'm going to assume DraftKings. They're separated by $100 on DK.
Center is kind of weird on DK today because you have Ben Simmons and Bobby Portis where they have the power forward eligibility coming over. So, like, you're seeing everybody else fall off. And Nurkic got a huge spike. 6,800 now over there. It's a guy that I'm very upset because last slate I ended up getting onto a ton of Zubats a little bit later there. And then, of course, in 31 minutes, Nurkic just smashes Orlando's faces again. But now they finally adjusted that price from the 6,100 number it was at. He's at 68 now. I'm probably leaning a little bit towards Thomas Bryant at the identical number, but it is such a minuscule difference for me. In our projections, we've got him about 3 DraftKings points apart here at Stokastic, so I'll go tiebreaker to Nurkic for that.
I have Bryant slightly. I don't have a huge preference between neither guy. Like if I gave Nurkic, one more minute, it would look really, really close. So to me, it's a coin flip.
Well, then in that case, if you're playing tournaments, just Thomas Bryant is at 5.7 and Nurkic is at 10.5. And I guarantee you Nurkic ends up a little bit more popular. He's just face hammered the last 3. So the what have you done for me lately, bros, are definitely going to be playing him.
One more from the Claw. He said, did I miss big news? Is Joe Harris a bad play? I don't think that he's a bad play. I mean, he's Joe Harris, buyer beware. But as far as like guys that are starting that could play a bunch of minutes go, like he's very, very reasonable.
I mean, you have Connaughton, you have Gabe Vincent, you have Beauchamp, you have Seth Curry, you have Javon Carter, you have Kendrick Nunn. You have a lot of these guys you can kind of rotate through. And I do want to be paying close attention. Like Joe Harris is still only at 11.2%. That's a little surprising to me. He's lower owned than for sure the first couple guys I said. So I'm very happy to be getting over the field at that.
There we go. That's what I like to see and hear.
Well, you're playing like 100% of him. So there's that.
No, not 100%.
Oh, okay.
40 or something.
Okay.
It's not going to be good. That much I could tell you.
No, he's been horrendous this year.
You know what's not horrendous?
What?
BetMGM.
Look at you.
They're not horrendous at all, especially because you guys can get 2 free months of Stokastic Plus Platinum by signing up. That's a couple $100 worth of a deal right out of the gate. So if you're in a legal betting state, yay. If you've never signed up at BetMGM yet, that is also pretty good. Click the link in the description, head on over. You got to make a qualified deposit. We need at least $10. Anything over that. My recommendation though, you should put in as much money as you could put together, at least up to $1,000, because, oh man, I already forgot what the buzzword is. Bonus bets? Is that what it was?
Yay! There we go.
Because you can get up to $1,000 in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. So throw the full Magilla at the first one.
Magilla.
Go for an underdog. You could take the shot, because if it wins, you just move forward with that money. You don't have to worry about anything. If it loses, you will get that back in bonus bets. Yes, bonus bets. 1-800-DON'T-GAMBLE or something is a number that's not in my read right now. So it's not in my read. What do you want me to do here? I know I'm supposed to say it. It ain't here. It's something like that, right? Right? Isn't it? No? What, Jordan? What? I know the number is around here somewhere. It's not anywhere on my screen any longer.
It's 1-800-GAMBLER.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, it's not like I said something really ridiculous.
It's fine.
Make a note. Jordan, make a note we got to update those reads so that we can get that number in there. Thank you for that. Anyway, bonus bets. 2 free months of Stokastic Plus Platinum. Jokes aside, humor aside, this is an incredible deal if you are in a legal betting state. 2 free months, up to $1,000. You can't ask for anything better. There's going to come a point in time where this deal doesn't exist. You're going to regret not taking it now. Forwards?
I had to unmute myself. Sorry.
Who is your favorite forward for today?
I mean, Jason Tatum moved up the board pretty significantly for me. I just said I've got a lot of him, a lot of Luka. This Grant Williams thing is getting out of control. He is so popular, and I get it. My favorite was Ben Simmons. Now Ben Simmons is even pulling a ton of ownership too. You can play popular plays. It's just simply finding some guys that aren't necessarily as popular. If you had to make me play one forward right now, as I'm looking on DraftKings and looking at my lineups, the guy that you should have in almost every lineup is Bobby Portis. Why is Bobby Portis at 6,300 less popular than Pat Connaughton, Ben Simmons, and Grant Williams? That is mind-blowing to me. Like, truly significantly mind-blowing. The guy is going to just destroy. Have people played DFS and seen Bobby Portis without Giannis and without Chris Middleton on the floor? Because it feels like they haven't. So yeah, just give me all the Bobby Portis. He's going to be my highest owned power forward.
I can't say that I disagree. He looks incredible. I'm getting to a lot of him on the FanDuel side. He just looks really, really good. So we got a couple more super chats that I think we should hit on. And I think it's the perfect opportunity for us to use our NBA player compare tool, which you guys could do at stokastic.com. So I'm going to go in reverse order here just because we had a very quick one. Sean Sullivan, last man in on DK, Grant Williams or TJ Warren. So Jordan, I know you have the ability to pull that up. Grant Williams, TJ Warren, as I look at it on the screen, and you guys should see it shortly, we've got Grant Williams 65% of the time outscoring TJ Warren here. Significantly more ownership, but to me, that is a decision point you make based on the rest of your lineup. Individually, the answer is pretty clearly Grant Williams.
Yeah, I'm not going to even argue that. And I've already talked about how uneasy I am. I'm just nervous we get to lock and we see like 55% Grant Williams, and I'm going to want to bang my head against a wall. So like everything in terms of projection looks that way. We have Grant Williams for legitimately 10 more minutes than we have for TJ Warren. The thing is, one is going to come around a 0.9 fantasy points per minute rate. Another guy is going to be around 0.75. I'll give him a little bit of a bump over his 0.72 that he's been for the season. I mean, they're going to project out within 2-3 fantasy points of each other. So like if you're chalky everywhere else, just go to TJ Warren. If you're not chalky everywhere and you have some contrarian plays in the middle of it, go to Grant Williams. I mean, it's more of how you build out your entire portfolio of lineups, just what Josh said.
And then Douglas Bowman said, Troy Brown Jr. or who on DraftKings tonight? I have 4,400 left over. Already have Grant Williams and Jalen Williams with a Y as punch, so I could fit in Luka and Tatum. I mean, if you're looking at 4,400 or under, the answer is, to me, is very clearly Gabe Vincent.
4,400 on DK or FanDuel?
I assumed it says DraftKings, so yes.
Oh, it does. Okay, yeah. It's kind of like a no man's land for the most part. Yeah, it's got to be Gabe Vincent. Like,
yeah,
you're going to be leaving salary on the table, but from Royce O'Neal down, so like 4,500. Royce O'Neal's the only guy that I have rostered in that entire range. I don't have exposure to a single other player in the 4K range besides. Well, I have a couple shares of Robert Williams, so I was on the guard spot there, but Gabe Vincent is very clearly the answer.
LaMelo Ball or Jimmy Butler in tiers. You can use our NBA player compare tool for that as well. We have LaMelo Ball just slightly ahead of Jimmy Butler in projection. If I'm being honest, I would expect Jimmy Butler to have more ownership in tiers than LaMelo Ball. So if you wanted to try to play that sort of mind game, I think that's out there. If you're playing tiers, I think more people are just going to naturally click Jimmy Butler because of what the team looks like today. But our answer is LaMelo Ball. I would always rely on the data.
Yes, correct.
Jake Linland, DK single entry, Tatum and Drew, or Smart and Luka. It's like another one perfectly set up for our player compare tool.
Tatum Drew for me.
Tatum, Drew, Smart, Luka. We have it at, wow, what a coin flip on that one.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
50.2% to Tatum and Drew, 49.8% to Smart and Doncic. You're paying a little bit more for Smart and Doncic. I prefer the Tatum Drew side just because I'm not as fond of what you're getting out of Marcus Smart in that scenario.
That is where we have the same point of view on that. I like the other three. I have a ton of the other three. I do not have that much Marcus Smart.
We got another super chat here from Eric Atkinson. Irving and Ball or Holiday and Tatum?
Holiday Tatum again. That combo I just have so much of.
Player compare tool says, I feel like we're reading off results of who the father is on Maury when I do this kind of stuff. Tatum and Holiday is the winner on this one, 54%. So a little bit firmer there. And you're saving an extra $400 in salary.
We could do that for Jordan Klein. You are the work daddy, Luffy. Oh, honey bear.
Jesus. We got another one in here. Another 2v2. Brooke Lopez.
Okay.
And Ben Simmons. Or Vincent, not the dog from Lost, by the way.
Oh,
and
buddy.
I assume Scotty Barnes.
After my absolute heart with that. That was the TV show that like made me want to move to California. I was like, that I'm obsessed with Lost.
Wow. Marvelous Mrs. Maisel is a show that makes me want to stop going to see stand-up comedy. That's a
Nobody
joke for one
understands what we're
person right
getting
now,
at.
and
You
that's all
still
that
can't
matters
get-
to me.
So mean. I love that show. But anyway, yeah, Lost was also incredible. We gotta go back. I'm pretty positive I'm gonna go away from any sort of Scotty Barnes ownership today. So let's go the other one of that.
Ben Simmons, Brooke Lopez, 67% in comparison to Vincent and Barnes. They outscore them by, I don't know, 6 fantasy points. You know, you are paying 300 extra
Simmons,
dollars,
Lopez,
but
yeah, definitely
not
Simmons,
even
Lopez
close.
for me. Yeah,
not even close.
I'm correct the first time. There we go.
You are correct the first time.
Just
We're up to
second-guessing
645 now. We did not do a lot of conversations on forwards, but I do think you hit a couple. Look, there's so many super chats in. By the way, 3,380 people in here. We're at 539 likes. We did the work that the Deeper Dive refused to do the hour before us, but I've just been too busy giving out the goods with Eric here. So can you guys hit that thumbs up? There's like 2,800 plus people in here that have not liked this video yet. That seems rude to me. We're just going here, churning out answer after answer after answer. I ask for nothing in return except for a thumbs up. That seems like pretty light work for you guys.
Agreed.
No new news on the starting lineup for the Hornets or the Raptors. Standard issue stuff for the Sixers, but that came in a bit ago, so nothing too crazy here. Already up over 600. Look at that. Didn't even take all that long. Just easy stuff. Favorite centers. What direction are you going?
Oh my God. This is just a lot of Ben Simmons, Bobby Portis on DraftKings for me. I'm playing pretty chalky, and it seems like a lot of those centers are kind of jumping over. The Joel Embiid one is weird to me because I had a ton of him, and then Jason Tatum became a thing in my life. I basically had none, and now I have all of it. We've got to look at later in the evening, too. I know I had kind of besmirched the good name of Yusuf Nurkic. I would want a ton of him if you don't have Damian Lillard. Same things with Anthony Simons. I don't want any of them at the moment. I would want to get to all of it I could. I'm going to have enough stuff coming up later in the evening. I have enough on the Dallas side. Luka that I could transition into some stuff. I kind of have some ancillary pieces from Portland that are kind of rotated in just for tournament purposes that are going a little bit underowned. But for the most part, center, Ben Simmons, Bobby Portis, they have the eligibility to be played over there. Hence, I am playing them on DK quite a bit there.
They both have power forward center eligibility, but the two guys that I'm getting to most on FanDuel are Bobby Portis, as you mentioned, and I'm getting to Bam Adebayo. He's just got a much different price point and positionality on FanDuel than he does on DraftKings. On FanDuel, if you're trying to play Bam Adebayo, he's an $8,600 power forward center. On DraftKings, he's a $9,100 center only. So just an infinitely better play on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings.
Yep. Agreed. I don't really even, I didn't even notice him really on the slate because it would take me a lot. I have 4% Bam Adebayo. He's coming in just short of 10%. I like him. I would just rather, I don't know what to make of what Nick Nurse is doing. We saw a really interesting rotation last game, but they also kind of went nuts in that second quarter, that being Chris Boucher and then Precious Achiuwa, but they've cut into Pascal Siakam's minutes a little bit. I still think, for the most part, competitive spots, Pascal Siakam is going to play 38, 39 minutes, but I did notice we've got him down to 36 and a half minutes over at Stokastic today. If that's going to be the little bit of the decrease there, a 10-3 for him, maybe the ownership comes in, where we've got it 5-6%, maybe comes in a little bit lower. I'm just saying, that's still a centerpiece to be over the field too.
Yeah, he's in 30% for me, but $9,600 power forward center on FanDuel. Again, just infinitely easier to get to.
Yeah, because Christian Wood's another play that I just have a ton of on DraftKings today.
Sure.
Power forward center 8,300. Just the best game environment. I'm getting to a ton of Wood, ton of Luka Doncic. It's not too hard to be getting myself in that direction. I can turn that into other things. As I said, just have some ancillary pieces from the Portland side that don't project out all that well. But in the event that you don't have Damian Lillard there, I've just got some Josh Hart that's coming through just as kind of a placeholder. I've got some Jeremy Grant as a placeholder. None of that is appealing right now. They're both super, super low owned. It's pretty much only intriguing if you get Dame there. Otherwise, they're probably going to be pretty dead lineups. But I've just got a couple coming through the cracks in the event that we get the right news there.
Chard Razman Porzinghi with the super chat. Is there anything wrong with having only one Heat player in my DK single entry? Feels wrong with them only having 8 available, but it's mostly Brooklyn, Boston, Milwaukee for me. No, I don't see anything wrong with that at all. If you add up their ownership percentages, you get to 80, at least the last run that I had. I don't think it'll be all that different. I got to 83%, somewhere around there, which means that most lineups are going to have technically less, 1 or 0 Miami Heat players in it. So no, to me, that's not crazy at all.
Yeah, Gabe Vincent, probably that guy too.
Fuck. Somehow my AirPods shut off, and all of a sudden you just started yelling at me from my computer, which I wasn't ready for the change in where the audio was coming from. So we'll see if that actually comes back. Doesn't appear to be doing that right now, but
your AirPods getting you ready for your wife coming home. Let's go. Hell yeah.
She's apparently home. I heard the dog barking right now.
Oh, there you go.
One more super chat, I believe. Yes, James Magruder. Rank the best plays at each position on DraftKings.
Not asking for much.
No.
Okay. Point guard, Kyrie Irving 1, Drew Holiday 2, Gabe Vincent 3, Luka 4 for me. Shooting guard, Gabe Vincent 1, Pat Connaughton 2, Malcolm Brogdon 3, Joe Harris 4. Small forward, Grant Williams did show up in 44% of my lineup, so there you go. This seems to be one I'm spreading out quite a bit. Grant Williams, Pat Connaughton, TJ Warren, Joe Harris. Power forward, Bobby Portis by a mile, Ben Simmons, Grant Williams, TJ Warren. And then at center, Portis, Simmons, Claxton, Joel Embiid.
I have no idea how this happened, but I have just fully unpaired my AirPods.
Lucky.
Very weird. Do I want to set up Hey Siri? Not right now, I don't. I would like to just use my AirPods, thank you very much. Seems like the wrong time to just shout that out into the air. I think I'm back. Now you're in one of my ears. What a night. What a night.
Oh, what a night.
All right. 6:52. 8 minutes to go. No new news. We've touched on every single super chat that we have in here so far. By the way, guys, you know how we were using the 1v1 and 2v2 tool that was on the screen before? You guys can check that out if you've never signed up at Stokastic.com before. We're doing 5 free days. It's a pretty solid trial. If you've never been with us, sign up. Got to be a new person here. You get projections, ownership, boom bust, our brand new lineup generator. Fantastic tool if you're trying to play just a couple lineups. Really gives you some curated things already ready for you that you could swap around. Is that face okay? Is that a news face, or are you making?
Oh no, face? I X'd out Jason Tatum in my last run. I was very upset about it. So
yeah, don't do that.
32%. So I dropped him down a little bit, but still getting quite a bit of him. More Luka now, but I was confused where he went and found him. There we go. X out.
Okay. Again, 5 days free. Go check it out. Link in the description. At least I hope that it's there. And we're up to 753 likes. We're doing the work that was not done for us before this. No surprises here. We knew that we were going to carry this. 3,200 people in here. I mean, I don't think it'd be crazy if we got to 1,000, but you guys would really have to go for it. I feel like I would have to give you guys something. There would have to be some type of giveaway, and I am not prepared to do that right now. So sorry. But you should get us 1,000 anyway. That would be cool.
Are you like zooming in on me while I'm looking at my computer, Jordan Clyde? Are you like trolling me? Is this a troll? I can't hear you, you idiot. I use the time between segments to fix things and to make things right. Just because you decide to zoom in on me, make me look like a dumbass.
To be fair, you do that perfectly well on your own.
Thanks, Josh. Thank God you're here today.
You can't tee me up like that, man. That's too easy. I'm too quick for that shit. I'm saying no Greg show.
I'm used to Greg. I was going to say I'm used to Greg. I had to go Adam. There we go. There it was.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to the Celtics game tonight. I'm Greg. Seriously, Jordan? Jordan, stop it.
I mean this sincerely. I think her being home is what's screwing up my AirPods. I think they're like pairing to my iPad or something now that she's home.
Bringing that bad juju back,
It's really irritating. If it mattered right now, I would really care. It doesn't, so I don't care. But What have we not talked about? Is there anything that we're missing with a couple minutes to go?
Who are like your favorite? If you had to punt on DraftKings.com and it wasn't Grant Williams, who would you be rotating through?
Marshawn Beauchamp.
Yep.
Joe Harris.
Yep.
Highsmith.
Yep.
I'm going with the guys that aren't already pulling like a ton of ownership. Javon Carter. I actually have a share or two of Mark Williams on FanDuel. I don't think he's as interesting on DraftKings. But on the off chance that something happens to Plumlee tonight, he is a good per minute guy. Adam mentioned him on the deeper dive, so I want to give him that shout out as well. I was actually getting to a lot more earlier this morning, and I didn't like that at all, so I took a minute away from him. That's not something that I aggressively advocate for, but he is on a 6-game slate. He's just Mason Plumlee foul trouble away from playing a couple extra minutes.
It's fair. I mean, that's what it is. It's a 6-gamer finding that 1 point of deviation. Again, he just goes into that. It's the same thing. It's just the position is what sucks with it. Like, I don't know if it's center. I really want to be doing that because I want to get Bobby Portis, Ben Simmons, Nick Claxton. Like, those are the guys I want to be getting to. Seems like center. This is probably my least favorite center slate we've had in a long time. Like, true centers.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, I think Embiid is in an incredible spot. We probably didn't talk about him as much as we should. He should eviscerate this Oklahoma City team. They don't have anything that can stop him. But if they're just throwing doubles at him the whole time, I think we could get underwhelmed with his points a little bit. And it just trickles out to your like George Niang scoring off the bench. Tobias Harris hits an extra 3 or something along those lines. And it just... Embiid doesn't have the opportunity to aggregate stats as much as you would want.
Totally agree.
Well, we're still going to have another, half hour to go here. We're 3 minutes away from lock. If you don't have your lineups in yet, I highly suggest that you hustle and get them in. There is no worse feeling than not submitting your lineups on time.
Death, destruction, poverty, AIDS.
Well, but that leads to poverty. So,
holy shit.
Does it not?
It sure does. Yes, it does.
You certainly have less money, unless you're Adam Scherer and you lock in the nuts when you accidentally don't get your lineups in. Most people just don't cash.
That was the most tilting NFL slate ever because I was like, that was a day I played a little bit heavier. I'm always on the NFL Live Before Lock show, so I've been more accustomed to playing like a smaller amount of lineups in like some of the bigger fields or whatever. And watching him sleep in and bypass me and murder me with a cash lineup was maybe my least favorite NFL slate of the year.
The funny thing is, you're talking about it from the NFL. I was thinking about the time that he did it with the NBA and OG Anunoby last year. So this man has done it twice across 2 different sports. What he really needs to do is just put a dummy lineup in for golf too and take a shot at a millie.
It's unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. We'll say the 2 of my 3 highest owned players, Christian Kirk and Maverick McNeely. Nice little start. That was fun.
What sport are you playing? Prize Picks?
Golf. Sony.
Christian Kirk is a wide receiver, no?
Oh, sorry. Chris Kirk. Yeah, Chris Kirk. Yeah.
I was like, this is a Prize
Take the shin out of it. Chris Kirk. There we go.
That's like, I haven't been paying too much golf, but I'm pretty sure that dude's a wide receiver for the Jags.
Jordan Klein gave me the nod, though. He's like, oh, those are good lineups. Because I know you're playing some PGA DFS this year, Jordan Klein, aren't you? Yeah. You're in the streets. Good stuff.
I don't blame you. It's fun. I don't ever win in PGA. That's not how it works. But
I would much rather have my own fate in my own hands playing actual golf than PGA DFS because it has gotten exponentially more difficult. But that is why we have tools, and that is where you end up on guys like that. Maverick McNeely. Let's go.
My filler arc said, speaking of destruction, Ben Simmons a good play today. If not, who else at that price for a DK forward? Him.
That's pretty much it.
The answer is yes, he is a good play today.
It's fantastic.
30 seconds to go until lock. Make sure you're hitting that upload button now because you are running out of time to do that. And if it comes anytime after the next 20 seconds, it is a useless upload for you. It's really sad that we only have the OKC Philly game tipping off because 1, it sucks. And 2, it sucks.
What's 3?
I don't have a third, but it probably sucks. Because then we're going to get probably a lot of very interesting, what could be interesting news in like the next minute or two if anything crazy is happening for the 7:30 starts. But we should have a relatively tame half hour to just hang out. What we really should do, I don't think that we're going to do this. We should have done an underdog draft for the final 30 minutes.
Oh, that would have been awesome. Can we get that going? Jordan Klein, are you capable of logging in for me on my account and we could do a mitten draft or something?
Jordan's about to be significantly richer after this. Jordan's about to get.
Oh, I think I only have like 100
your balance
bucks on there now.
I have $73, so if you want me to do it, I can do it too.
I did a lot of them.
That's whatever I got back in the 5
I have
drafts
56
I did
bucks
last
now.
year.
Yeah, I played a bunch of mitten drafts earlier, so I was doing that not while we were on calls. I would never have done that.
Do we want to do that, or do we want to do an NBA one, dunking after dark?
Let's do it. We could do that.
I don't know the gist of this.
I don't either. Let's find out. 106 current entrance. Seems like nobody is playing that. It starts at dunking after dark. That's for the evening slate. Got it.
Yeah,
I was confused. I was like, if that's starting in 9 minutes, we should unload the clip in that.
Yeah, not even close. So that would
Jordan,
be.
I have to change my password. This password's my password for everything, so I've got to change this quick. Then I'll send it to you.
That's fantastic. It's clearly not like random letters and numbers. It's like,
it's a thing that I actually
Hawkeye
I would
69 or something.
I would be embarrassed to send this to another human being. My favorite thing in college though. This is incredible. This is maybe my favorite college moment. Period. At Iowa State, internet goes out. I had two roommates at the time. They were both out of town for the weekend, and they're by myself. Internet goes out, and I have to call some service guy to come over and like fix the internet. And it's probably this 80-year-old guy. This like 80. I mean, he is just the oldest person you could ever have come fix your internet. He's like hunchback coming in, like plugs in the router, like kind of does whatever else on his computer. And he's just like, all right, I need your password. I was like, no, like we can't do that. And he's like, can you just type it in? And I was like, all right, sounds good. And it didn't have it out on the screen or whatever. And it was tits and ass 69XX. And then I can't remember what the other thing was, but it was like, fuck me gently was like the back part of it. And I'm like typing it out. And he's just like, look at it. He's like, oh, okay. Hits enter on it. He's like, your internet's fixed. And he just had this look of like, I've seen it all. Like it was not the first time he's ever gone and fixed internet and had like one of the worst screen names ever put on the other side of it. But anyway,
that sounds like the most boring thing that's ever happened in college. If that's the best thing that happened to you in college, nerd. We named our router something really funny. You should have invited a girl over at some point in time. You think about that?
You're not
Gary
nice.
Trent Jr.
Nice.
or OG Ananobi. That's a super chat from Jake.
Look at that. That's bad, Eric. See, some people like the story. Just because you don't like my story, it's just like you don't like Mrs. Maisel. It's fine. I see where you're at.
Yeah, because I'm smart. Look, I think they have incredible set design. Do they win awards for that?
I literally can't talk to you right now. It upsets me so much. Change password. I found it. Here we go.
That is the only good thing about that show, the set design.
Jordan. You answer that. I don't care.
By the way, the answer is OG Ananobi for me. I got him by about a fantasy point over Gary Trent. Very close.
All right. I'm sending this to you, Jordan. We're going to get in an NBA draft or some other drafts. We'll get in something. We could do a mitten and an NBA draft at the same time. That sounds like fun.
Dude, we can't manage that. Jordan's going to not be able to handle two drafts at the same time
cares?
for two different sports.
Grow up, Peter Pan, Count Chocula.
This is an NBA show. I don't think that we need to do an NFL draft.
Oh. Well, it's by far I mean, they are flying. They fill instantly right now. You just want to play in those. It's so much fun. If you guys haven't played the playoff best ball, perhaps my favorite kind of best ball ever. Like the strategy that goes into picking and everybody's going to be stacking onslaughts of teams trying to figure out like what the matchups are. People aren't spending the time to do that all the time where, you're mapping out what needs to happen for certain players to hit ceilings, like end up with a lot of Eli Mitchell, end up with a lot of, Giants. If you play like the script where the Giants or Jacksonville or some of these underdog teams find ways to W's, like it's been a lot of fun to put together.
What are we doing?
He's going. He's getting in there. I sent it to Jordan.
NBA dunking after dark. To me, that's the play. 4-person draft, $1,000 to first. We're drafting 6 guys from the 2 late games, and that's going to be FanDuel scoring. 3-point blocks, 3-point steals. You lose a full point, 4 turnovers. So I've got my sheet filtered down for the 2 late games.
Me too. Yep, jump in that. I like we're doing this on the fly. This is fun.
Yeah, why not? It's fun. It's fun.
And this is Underdog.
Go check out Underdog. Promo code Stokastic. $100 instant match deposit bonus. Thank you. Now, obviously, Eric, I think we're on the same page here. If we have the first pick, we're taking Luka Doncic.
Yes. It's a gigantic edge to be going first.
And if we have the second pick, we are absolutely taking LeBron James, I believe.
Yes, we are 100% doing that.
Okay, so we've got the reach around. This is the worst spot to be in.
Well, it depends, because I think that what you're going to probably end up doing now, you're going to miss out on Luka, you're going to miss out on LeBron. I think you're going to end up game stacking with the idea that Damian Lillard's out. Like, I think if you're at the turn here, we should just be getting Simons and Nurkic for our first 2, hoping that game just shoots, or get Donovan Mitchell or we say Damian Lillard's playing and you take Donovan Mitchell Lillard at the turn.
Ooh, okay.
Like you have to get a little bit unique.
I think Mitchell's going to go third.
It's true. Then you probably, yeah. Well, let's see. Hopefully the person takes Damian Lillard. If they take Damian Lillard, we have the absolute nuts. Yeah, well, no kidding.
LeBron second.
This is a big one. Because we can do a lot with the turn and just stack this game up. All
right, Donovan Mitchell goes.
Okay, that
sucks. Do you want to go Dame, or do we want to try to make this a game with Dame out? Well, I mean, 19 seconds.
I think we probably take Christian Wood as the one piece from the Dallas Lakers game.
Okay.
I think we take Christian Wood. And let's think about this.
Get it. Go.
Let's take him. Let's take Christian Wood. And I think we take Dame, because if he's out, we probably don't have enough to compete with the next 2 as
Agreed.
it is. So let's just take Dame and go.
I'm with you. Take Dame.
Take Dame. Well, yeah, we go back to back
twice,
picks.
Dummy.
I'm in this draft. Somebody's in this draft. Nick Plum. I got a feeling in my plums.
Well, at least Nick Plum's going to know everything that we're doing.
Yeah. The Plumster, 27.
FanDuel cash question from Josh Johnson. Brogdon or Smart? I have no idea right now.
FanDuel cash ownership? You got to play Smart.
Oh, it's Smart.
Cash.
It's Smart. It's not even close. Yeah, it's not even close.
Yeah, tournaments, I'm going Brogdon. I just have a lot of Brogdon.
All right, so Nurkic and Simons both go. Russ goes.
I mean, we are just in purgatory here.
That Nurkic pick is a bad pick in my eyes.
Agreed.
And when we have Wood and Dame,
I mean, this is just going to be so gross. Where we have to go next?
Probably, yeah. All right, so there goes Evan Mobley. Not a pick that I was expecting to see quite yet.
So I mean, I got to wait for Plumster to go. Okay,
so
we have to go Jeremy Grant, don't we?
So I would go, since we have 2 picks, I think it's Jeremy Grant and Darius Garland.
Agreed. Those are my 2.
Because at this point, Garland has a true ceiling that could be needed. And then just...
Darius Garland got picked? Then we got to go Thomas Bryant. There's nobody else to take other than
the
Thomas
only
Bryant.
choice. Yeah. I didn't see, when I looked up at the screen, I never saw that Garland was gone.
I mean, and here's the thing, like they're both between Wood and Bryant. I mean, there aren't many iterations of the game where Luka and LeBron aren't just absolutely smashing, but if they're going to carve in enough, I'm okay getting to those 2. And, hopefully they go for hopefully Bryant goes for like a 2020 Moses Malone situation, but that's just not going to happen. Christian Wood.
There goes Dinwiddie.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're staring. Well, there goes Josh Hart. I was going to say, I think we're staring at Josh Hart, but we're not staring at Josh Hart any longer.
Nick Plum, this isn't a bad time. No, this is fantastic. I love the strategy. I think, we're using projections and then we're also just using game theory on the fly, trying to piece together a team that can have a ceiling. I think now in these later drafts, like, where are the iterations of deviation that you're going to get away from everybody else that's drafting in these kind of spots? Like, if something goes a certain way, how can we figure out where to go? Like, for me, I've been taking a lot of KJ Osborne in the mitten, as opposed to Adam Thielen, because he shows up higher there. And I think KJ Osborne's just falling into a more prominent role, whereas everybody's auto-clicking Adam Thielen because he's so much different in terms of projection as the last piece of the Minnesota stack. I think it's the same thing here where it's like, all right, if you have a failure from LeBron or somebody else, like Kendrick Nunn becomes a more interesting piece. Is there a blowout where, Luka doesn't end up getting a ceiling and it ends up being Christian Wood? Like, where can we go for that ceiling? Like, where can we find that last piece?
So I don't hate the idea here of going to Drew Eubanks on the off chance that something happens to Nurk.
Interesting. But we have Jeremy Grant, and I feel like maybe that's a little bit...
I mean, our choices are like Troy Brown, Reggie Bullock, Wenyen Gabriel.
Okay, let's do it. Let's take Eubanks. I like that. Again, backup centers, they're the guys who can spike a ceiling kind of out of the middle of obscurity. And now we have one more.
Yeah, go ahead, Jordan. And then, I mean, Troy Brown feels like the answer, but I hate it. I just don't see anybody else. I mean, if we want to say that potentially Dame is out, I don't know how many minutes Gary Payton Jr. or Gary Payton II can play, but he could fall into more of them because of that. I just don't know how big of that raw point ceiling ends up being.
Yeah.
Take your pick, Jordan. Not Ricky Rubio.
None. Not Rubio. Thank you. I just
Ricky Rubio it is.
Not quick. You got Rubio?
Yeah. Well, that's because you took too long.
You can star Kendrick Nunn and damn Klein.
$5 down the drain. Thanks, Jordan.
Getting another. Run it back. Run it back.
Works.
Getting another.
Works for me.
Getting another. Go. Getting another. We still have 2,000 people watching, hanging out, because this is a lot of fun, and it's less fun when you have Jordan Klein picking for you and having a seizure live on air.
It's only your fault.
It's literally not my fault that you guys can't.
All right, we're picking first, so we've got Luka this time.
Oh yeah, thank God. Let's go.
So
numero uno.
Appreciate you guys still hanging out. Again, 834 likes. Hit that thumbs up. We're here doing Underdog drafts up until 7:30, and you guys can sign up at Underdog using the link in the description. Promo code Stokastic, 100% instant match deposit bonus up to $100. Get in the 2 big NFL ones, huge prize pools, upwards of $200,000. But for now, we're doing the late slate NBA draft.
Calvin Weeks, nothing worse than the guy who gives directions, forgets to tell you to turn, then blames you. Stop it. Jordan Klein's always wrong.
Yes.
Stop it.
No doubt.
I might just pick Damian Lillard with his first one, just to spite you.
Hang on, am I able to be? I can't.
I don't think. Yeah, you can't sign in. It's gonna. All right, we're doing
It
Luka.
won't let me.
Yes, we're going
yeah,
Luka.
Luka instantly. If you do anything else, you're dead to me as a person in the world. Probably should have taken somebody else. That would have been a positive EV move for your life. Now is the time to get Kendrick Nunn.
Yeah, I saw that.
Emac.
You told me none.
What are we waiting here for? I can't even read
I
that.
said you don't want none unless you got buns, hun.
You could do side bends or sit-ups, but please don't lose that butt.
Whoop.
All right, there goes Brown. I hate that we've got the wraparounds again.
I think it's okay because I think this gives you an opportunity to really, like,
Honestly, it gives
this
Jordan
slate-
more time.
I was gonna say, but what do you want to? What do you want to do? Something just somebody take somebody ridiculous.
It's just the order of operations there. I mean, if this person doesn't take Russ right now, I think we're taking Russ.
We are 100% taking.
And then I
Russ.
think we're taking Thomas Bryant, and we're just going Lakers stack for the first 3 picks.
Sure are.
Although he's clearly going to take Russ, and then we're going to take Thomas Bryant. All right, Jordan. So this is either Russ if he doesn't take Russ, or Thomas Bryant.
Okay, got it.
Russ Bryant.
And then
back to
Eric,
back.
whatever direction you want to go.
No, it's just Russ Bryant back to back.
We're going.
No,
Bryant.
Russ just went. So now we
He
get
just
Bryant.
went?
Jordan, take your time. Don't
Take
hit
Bryant.
draft yet. Take the 15
Just
seconds.
hit.
Eric, who do
hit
we
the
want to
star.
take?
For what? We're gonna take.
Jordan, just click the damn draft button for him.
Just
There we go. All
There you
right.
go. Hit the
Who do we
cue.
want as our second guy then, other than Thomas Bryant?
so now. I mean, now we take Anthony Simons, right? Just hope Lillard's out. Like I
Yeah,
think that's
absolutely.
probably the right way
Agreed.
to do it. Yeah.
Agreed.
So star him.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, now you just take Anthony Simons. We don't have to let the 30 seconds go down and be dickheads.
Yeah.
Perfect. I like that.
Draft etiquette. It's important.
Okay, so we're on 2 Lakers now. We're on Simons. We're crossing our fingers, and we are playing the best case scenario here. Damian Lillard doesn't play. Like
Correct.
that's how we're treating this. If we're willing to go to Simons, then we want to approach this as if Dame isn't playing.
100%. We're
There
gonna
goes
be
Grant,
taking.
which sucks.
Yeah, I was gonna say Grant would have been the next nuts. Now we're looking at hopefully because again we got a long ways waiting on the second half of this. Josh Hart has got to be under consideration now.
Yep.
That's probably our next guy.
Hopefully.
Would you like me to star anyone?
Yeah, Josh Hart.
Josh Hart. Okay. Someone just took it.
George, just
Somebody
yep,
just
there he
took
goes.
Josh Hart.
Yeah, that was early.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Nurkic
somebody's
went,
watching.
Mobley went.
You're all watching right now. This is disturbing. Sick people. I'm
There
now
goes
gonna.
Schroeder. Okay, so am I? All right,
Okay,
so you got to
we're
take
up.
Jared Allen. It's just not even
Yep.
close.
Yeah, you have to.
Should I just star him? Do you guys know who you want?
Yep,
next?
star him and give the time. Give us the time. Yeah.
Okay.
Good call. Look at you. You're learning.
I mean, I think that it has to be Tim Hardaway. I don't think it fits what we're doing right now.
It doesn't like who else from Portland would we even take though? Like that's the problem.
It's too big of a gap right now.
Yeah,
Because I
think
have Schroeder, or I have Tim Hardaway at 26 fantasy points, and the next closest guy is at
Yep.
20.
Yep.
All right.
Tim
20
Hardaway.
seconds. Tim Hardaway.
Tim
It's
Hardaway.
just too big of a point gap.
Yep. Hopefully you can just go completely ape shit from 3. That'd be cool.
And then now we're just sort of in fill it out mode. Man, and the bottom of this, Jordan, I swear to God, if you take Ricky Rubio again.
Oh man. Here is probably where we get really weird with because we already have Simons and we took him a little bit early. I think I don't want to do Shaden Sharp. I don't. I kind of do though.
I think I would rather take Gary Payton.
Yeah.
Your call.
Part of
Better
it is
than
we already
Rubio.
have Simons. I mean, they're going to play alongside each other, so that's not a big deal. You'd rather take Peyton than Shaden Sharp?
I would. I just don't know how many minutes he can play.
Yeah, I think Gary Payton's the guy we're going to go with to finish it out.
This is this the last pick?
Think so.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Gary Payton.
Boom.
Go
Gary
get
Payton.
5 steals, sir.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You want to see what's going on in the Philly OKC game before we get out of here?
Let's tune in.
All right.
That was so
Thank
fun,
you guys
though.
for being here. That was
Oh
a
my
good time.
God! Of course, OKC's up 9. Why wouldn't they be?
Yeah, so far off to a great start. Embiid 0 for 3 from the field, but he does have 4 rebounds.
2 fouls.
He does have 2 fouls. Very interesting. Shea, 5 points, a steal, and a block. So great start for SGA there. Not too much else to like really dig into here. I mean, those 2 stocks for SGA are the biggest stats that we have so far. 2, 3, and 1 for Giddey. Missed his only shot attempt. 4 of 5 from 3 for Oklahoma City to start the game. That'll do it. That's what I needed Detroit to do a couple days ago when I took them against Philly. Instead, I watched them miss everything possible.
It was so tilting. I had so much Jaden Ivey on that slate. It was absurd. I had so much Killian Hayes. It was absurd. And of course,
I had Bay and Knox.
They both went nuts when their prices went up against Minnesota. Because why wouldn't that happen? Especially when you add Bojan Bogdanovic back to the rotation. Like, come on.
I got 78 minutes out of Bay and Knox, and they were atrocious. No, 68 minutes, rather.
Yeah. And then Sadiq Bey breaks the slate next game. Of course he does. What a piece of trash. By the way, for anybody keeping track at home, exact Heat, exact Bucks starting lineups we were expecting.
It's a fun show.
So it's a lot of fun.
Got my AirPods back in. That worked.
Very important.
It is. Holiday, Beauchamp, Connaughton, Portis, Lopez.
I didn't really get to Brook Lopez. Maybe I should have. I didn't really get to him at all. He's somebody I'm way under the field on.
I only got him in 3 of my lineups, but I do have Beauchamp in half of my stuff. So
I have a lot of him.
Fingers crossed.
He's the guy I hope pops because he's getting a lot less ownership than other guys. And I just think he's less like he's officially starting. TJ Warren is still a leap of faith and he's getting 15%. And I feel like people still want to play him a lot. I want to play him a lot, but I've come down on him, just making sure Beauchamp was the guy. That was pretty important. What?
I'm just looking through. I had a message. I didn't know if it was from Jordan or not, but it was from Jake Hari.
Oh, look at that. He's getting us access.
He was getting us access. I assume you got it too.
No, I predict the future. That's why I play DFS.
And it is in my email as well. Always good to see.
I don't know if you heard this from some of the people in my YouTube gambling show spots, but everything is predetermined and it's completely fake. And when players get hurt, they did it on purpose.
Yeah, of course. Of course. I mean, I've been following all those tweets from Greg with just absolute morons. Thinking
moron.
It's brutal, man. It's brutal. Look, I said it. I don't remember where I said it. I mean, maybe it was one of our AV call last week. But the mistake we made was making a DFS site or a sports betting site and not just creating our own sports book. Because that's the way to print the money. That's the way to print money.
Yeah,
we should have been a sports book.
It's an unfortunate fact.
Stokastic sportsbook. We would be a lot less stressed because that money would just come in like a waterfall into our bank accounts.
Do you imagine? No, Sean V's in the chat. He's good people now. He's turned over a new leaf. He's a changed person. But Brandon Katz, if you're out there, go into a hole and never come out.
Could have been worse.
I was trying to choose carefully where I was going with it.
That was fun. I agree, though. Please, don't ever be in chat, ever, like forever, ever.
Forever.
I don't even know if we're allowed to quote him anymore.
Probably not. Yeah, but I always love throwing in, no discrimination here, squirrel. But I guess that's not Andre, so it's less intrusive. Wow.
Seems like a nice guy. There are way worse people in sports.
He's really good at chugging water and then going yeah. That's all.
I mean, if you were playing in like a cornhole league, I think that'd be good. I think he's pretty good. Tried out my pop darts today. Fun times, man.
Okay,
Fun times.
okay.
Dog tried to catch one out of the air and eat it. Didn't get it.
Oh, it's a bummer.
I was like, buddy, that's not a treat. So we taught him how to, like, you know, toss stuff up in the air and catch it and like catch treats, which has been pretty fun because at first it would just right across the face, wouldn't even be able to do it. Didn't understand it. So now he's good. But now anytime I throw something in the air, he just thinks that's what he's supposed to do.
That's awesome.
I was like, buddy, we can't eat those. But fun little game. If anybody's seen the Pop Darts video, don't be afraid to pick up a set. They're relatively cheap. Fun stuff. Sticks to any countertop.
Yeah, I'll get some. Sounds fun.
It's just, you know, like I'm always looking for something to be like, yo, let's put $20 down on a game here to 21. Just some sort of additional way to get some action through life. Thanks to this job.
You guys going to watch The Last of Us on HBO? Hell yeah. Are you kidding me? It looks fantastic.
I don't know what that is.
It was a video game turned, they're doing an HBO series on it. Pedro Pascal from Mandalorian, from Game of Thrones, that guy. It's basically him wandering zombies, a lot of stuff. It's going to be fun.
Oh, interesting. Oberyn Martell. Got it.
Idiom Martell. You raped her. You killed her.
Then I smashed her head in like this.
Oh,
that irritated me so much.
It was bad. I do love the reaction videos to that. There was like that Chicago bar that watched Game of Thrones live. That was incredible.
It was so obvious what was going to happen.
It's bad.
So obvious. The moment he was talking so much shit, I was like, "You dead."
Yeah.
Wait, who else is in the show besides Oberyn Martell?
So then it's a lot of. There's one other super famous person. That's.
I'll just search for it like a normal person.
The Last of Us. But the girl, it's the
Bella Ramsey. She's Lyanna Mormont from Game of Thrones.
There you go. That's who I was thinking of. Yeah.
She'd be better off playing that character
on this show.
Oh yeah, Anna Torv is in this too. I'm gonna watch this shit. I saw that this was coming out. Anna Torv, awesome. Shouts to Fringe, baby.
You
show that not enough people watched.
Yeah, Nick Offerman's the bad guy in it, which I cannot wait for. Like Nick Offerman is fire. That's the super fit. That's who I was thinking of. I couldn't remember, but yeah, he's gonna have a dramatic turn. I'm pretty stoked for that.
All right, you got to get in on Anna Torv. Anna Torv also in Mindhunter. Loved her there too.
Mm-hmm. And I'm happy they're doing a TV series because one of my favorite video games of all time, Assassin's Creed, got shafted by not being a TV series. It was just a terrible, terrible Michael Fassbender movie. It's like the Templars where it's good versus evil, and they find like your DNA. You're able to tap into your ancestors through a machine, and it's incredible. It's an amazing storyline for a video game. Horrible, terrible, no good, very bad movie.
I can't imagine tapping into my ancestors would be any good for me.
Oh, North Carolina.
No, I just assume I would be in some hut in Czechoslovakia peeling potatoes or something.
Bad. Yeah, I think
making pierogies in the snow.
Yeah, I had farmers in Minnesota. That's pretty much my entire ancestry.
Yeah, unless I'm going straight Genghis Khan, I got no shot.
No. Yeah.
You ready to get out of here? This is a good one, folks.
It's pretty good stuff. Pretty good. Jordan Klein, are you properly happy? Here's the thing, Jordan Klein, I'll give you half of anything we win tonight. How does that sound for your great work? He's not going off, especially because people in chat told us he was going off. He's not going off.
No.
And I love Ricky Rubio. Shout out Minnesota.
That's all I got, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Hit the like button on your way out the door if you haven't done it already. Good luck on all your contests. Thank you to Underdog for sponsoring this bad boy. I'll be back with you guys again bright and early, 6:30 a.m., closing out the work week. We got another strong day of content. I think we've got 9 games on the slate for tomorrow. Let me quickly check. Yes,
yeah.
9 games on tomorrow's slate, so should be a fun one. Enjoy it all, folks. Eric, anything else?
No, I'll be on the strategy show tomorrow morning. It's like my second strategy show of the entire year, filling in for Greg. So looking forward to that one. Doing a little game by game breakdown early in the morning. Can't wait.
There we go, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We're out of here. Peace.